Chapter 3104. Not far away, a few figures arrived. The one who spoke was Book Immortal Yunju. Momo and Lu Ping followed closely behind. Behind the three of them was an old man in the Grotto Heaven realm. However, they were surrounded by the Crimson Heaven Palace's army. Immortal King Stone K didn't care at first. The Zishuan Immortal Kingdom was only a heaven-level force in the Divine Firmament Immortal Realm. They were not on the same level as the Crimson Heaven Palace. If the Divine Firmament Palace had stepped in, he would have been a little worried. The Zishuan Immortal Kingdom? Haha. Immortal King Stone K glanced over casually, but his eyes suddenly lit up. One of the three fairies, Book Immortal Yunju. The four fairies were all peerless beauties with outstanding talent. They each had their own strengths and were extremely famous in the entire heaven realm. Unfortunately, it was said that the Zither Immortal had been disfigured at the Zhouxiao Convention and was later killed by Suju of the Sword Realm in the Celestial Tribute Realm. Among the remaining three fairies, the Chess Immortal was the most belligerent. Immortal King Stone K wasn't interested in her. The Chinkuan Academy where the Painting Immortal was from had long declined. In addition, she lived in seclusion and rarely showed herself, so her reputation was not as good as before. Only the Book Immortal Yunju was the one he liked the most. He had even invited her to the Crimson Heaven Palace several times, but unfortunately, he didn't get a response. Let them in. Immortal King Stone K smiled and waved his hand. The Crimson Heaven Palace's army opened a gap and let Yunju and the other three in. At this time, the Crimson Heaven Palace's army had gathered around hundreds of thousands. More than 300 immortal kings had all arrived. In the formation of thousands of troops, countless gazes were fixed on them, and there were so many immortal kings. Yunju and the other three were indeed under great pressure. Immortal King Duzue, who was protecting Yunju, was used to seeing storms. In the face of this situation, he was also a little nervous. In this situation, if a conflict broke out, he would be unable to protect himself, let alone Yunju's safety. Immortal King Stone K smiled and said, Fairy Yunju, I invited you to the Crimson Heaven Realm many times, but you refused. I didn't expect you to come uninvited today. Yunju cupped his fists and said, Immortal King Shur K, these two are my old friends. I hope you can give me some face and show mercy. As a matter of fact, she has no relationship with Ning and Night Spirit. It is only because of Su Zimo's request. However, with this additional layer of relationship, she was worried that Immortal King Stone K would not agree. When Ning and Night Spirit see Momo, they can roughly guess who Yunju is here for. All right, Immortal King Shur K said with a smile, since Fairy Yunju has asked, I will definitely give you face. Unexpectedly, Immortal King Stone Tower actually agreed right away. Yunju was slightly stunned, but she quickly noticed the flickering light in Immortal King Shur K's eyes, and she realized that Immortal King Shur K had other intentions. In that case, many thanks to Immortal King Stone Quebec, Yunju pretended to know nothing. She waved at Ning and Night Spirit and said, Let's go. Hold on. Immortal King Shur K's expression darkened as he said coldly, Fairy Yunju, why do you have to play dumb with me? I can let her go, but you have to pay a price. What do you want? Yunju asked. You. Immortal King Shur K said with a fake smile, This Su Xiaoning should have been my immortal concubine. If you're willing to replace her, I can naturally let her go. Of course, Fairy Yunju, don't worry. If you're willing to give yourself to me, I can make you my Dao companion. Yunju's expression was calm, and there was no fluctuation in her eyes. She merely said indifferently, Immortal King Shur K, you must be joking. I never force others. Immortal King Shur K smiled. You can think about your choice. Yunju remained silent. She had no choice but to appear at this moment and wanted to stall for time as much as possible. However, judging from Immortal King Shur K's attitude, she might not even be able to protect herself. Tao Yao's expression was anxious and worried. Daoist Yunju, Xiaoning thanks you. Xiaoning cupped her fists from afar and said, But don't be fooled by him. He has many wives and concubines, and he already has a Dao companion. Now that he's going to abolish his Dao companion because of you, it's obvious that he's a heartless person. Leave now. Don't worry about us. Interesting. Immortal King Shirkei was not angry when he heard that. He looked down at Xiaoning and Night Spirit and said, I didn't expect you to be able to get Fairy Yunju to help you. Unfortunately, even if the Zixin Immortal Kingdom intervenes, they won't be able to save you. If my father intervenes, the various factions in the Nine Firmament Immortal Realm will have to give him face. You're just a couple from the lower realm. How many people do you know, and you want to fight me? So what if we're from the lower realm? At that moment, a crack suddenly appeared in the void, and a mocking voice came from within. Do you think those from the lower realm can *CK your mother? Why are you always talking about it? Night Spirit shuddered when he heard the voice. He looked up in disbelief, for figures descended from the crack. The one who spoke just now had a strong head and a ferocious face. Who else could it be other than Tiger? Beside her, a woman in green with long legs said coldly, They don't need to know many people. Us brothers are enough. Ching Ching. The golden-haired man beside her looked at Night Spirit and grinned. Fifth brother, we're here. Did you miss us? The little fox did not speak. She only blinked her big, watery eyes and waved her hand vigorously in Night Spirit's direction. Night Spirit clenched his fists. His eyes were red, and his heart was in turmoil. Perhaps it was his nature, but Night Spirit had always been very calm. He rarely showed any emotional fluctuations, and rarely showed too much emotion. However, at this moment, an indescribable emotion suddenly burst out from the depths of his heart. Brothers. He, Night Spirit, was not alone. He had a few good brothers. Tiger, Ching Ching, the little fox, and the golden lion sprinted over. One by one, they hugged Night Spirit and groped him all over. It's been a long time since we last met. You seem to have gotten stronger. Little Night Spirit, let me cherish you. I was the one who hatched you back then. Your personality has changed. If it was in the past, I would have been sent flying after touching you like that. Under normal circumstances, Night Spirit would not allow anyone to get so close to him and even touch him so intimately. However, at that moment, Night Spirit merely pursed his lips when he heard the familiar voices around him. He looked at the four familiar faces and felt a surge of warmth in his heart, causing his vision to blur. Ever since he ascended, Night Spirit had never been as free as he was in Tianhuang mainland. Even though he had found Xiaoning, he felt as though something was missing. It was only at this moment that everything returned. Those familiar feelings and the companionship that he was used to. Everyone hugged each other and ignored the strange gazes around them. They cried and laughed, as though they had returned to Tianhuang mainland. This scene fell into the eyes of the crowd as if they were looking at a few fools. Perhaps no one would ever understand that the feelings between the few of them were above everything else, surpassing kinship and life and death. No matter how time passed or where they were, they would be bound to each other forever. Chapter 3105. Immortal King Shirkei frowned slightly with a gloomy expression. Just now, the tiger had been cursing and swearing. He had been holding back and not attacking, not because he was afraid of these four demonic beasts. These beasts were nothing to be afraid of. They were only at the true spirit level. What he was really afraid of was the terrifying aura that was faintly emitted from the void rift in midair. Tearing the void was something only a Grotto Heaven King could do. However, the one who sent these four demonic beasts was probably not a demon king. May I know which expert has graced us with your presence? Why don't you show yourself? Immortal King Shirkei looked at the void rift and asked in a deep voice. After a short silence, two figures walked out of the void rift. It was a man and a woman. The woman was wearing a pink fur coat. She was naturally charming, and her jade-like arms were exposed like lotus roots. She had long snow-white legs and a slender waist that could not be held with one arm. She exuded a seductive charm. The moment this woman appeared, she immediately attracted the attention of hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Everyone stared at the woman in pink, and the sound of people swallowing their saliva could be heard. The man beside her was tall and burly, and his aura was strong. Normally, he would definitely attract attention. However, after appearing at the same time as this woman, it was as if she was the only one left in everyone's line of sight. The divine elephant demon emperor seemed to be used to this scene. He only shrugged slightly and did not mind. Immortal King Shirkei's eyes gradually lost focus as he looked at the woman. He had even forgotten everything. Suddenly, in his mind, the jade ornament on his primordial spirit emitted a faint light. Immortal King Shirkei suddenly woke up, and his eyes gradually regained clarity. When he saw the 9 tails swaying slightly behind the woman in pink, he could not help but exclaim, "The 9-tailed demon emperor." Hearing this voice, the immortal kings also came to their senses. Unknowingly, they all broke out in cold sweat. One had to know that behind the 9-tailed demon emperor was the great wasteland domain ruled by Emperor Rocky Takashi and the blood butterfly demon emperor. Someone who could stand shoulder to shoulder with the 9-tailed demon emperor was also a demon emperor. 2 demon emperors from the great wasteland domain had arrived at the same time. What were they trying to do? Although there were hundreds of thousands of soldiers, more than 300 immortal kings, and even quasi-emperors present, they were still not enough in front of 2 demon emperors. Seeing the 2 demon emperors from the great wasteland domain appear, Yunju heaved a sigh of relief. The demon emperor. She just didn't know if he would come. Senior demon emperors, are you here in the heaven realm to start a realm war? Immortal King Shirkei quickly calmed down and asked in a low voice. This time, he did not mention the Crimson Cloud Palace. Instead, he brought up the heaven realm. Don't be nervous. The 9-tailed monarch beast giggled and said, "We didn't bring an army here. We've only brought them here to enjoy the show." Immortal King Shirkei lowered his head, avoiding the 9-tailed demon empress gaze. The 9-tailed demon emperor's seductive eyes were like silk. He had only taken a casual glance just now, and his soul had almost left his body. The divine elephant demon emperor said, "You can continue. We will not interfere with your feud." A sovereign emperor was a man of his word. Naturally, he would not go back on his word. The immortal kings present exchanged glances and heaved sighs of relief. That said, the crowd still had some misgivings in their hearts. If there were only 4 true spirits of the demon clan, what could they do? Why would they need 2 demon monarchs to escort them personally? Hey, that dog's-head emperor's son. The tiger looked up at immortal King Shirkei and said loudly, "Listen carefully. I'm also from the lower realm. We're all from Tianhuang mainland. You're just a dog relying on its master's power." Immortal King Shirkei snorted coldly. "If it weren't for the presence of the 2 demon monarchs, you bunch of servants wouldn't have the right to speak here." "What Tianhuang mainland? I've never heard of it." "Then I'll make you remember it today." At this moment, a long roar came from afar. An army tore through the air. Flags fluttered in the wind, and dust billowed. There were actually 100,000 of them. The leader held a halberd and strode forward with surging battle intent. The immortal kings of the Crimson Cloud Palace were intimidated by his aura and did not dare to block him. They all made way. War monarch? Immortal King Shirkei frowned when he saw who it was. Lin Zhan's eyes were like torches as he stared at immortal King Shirquebec. He said with killing intent, "I'm also from Tianhuang mainland. Say the word servant again in front of me." Immortal King Shirkei did not dare to reply. He had a feeling, if he dared to say that word again, Lin Zhan would chop his hand off on the spot. Immortal King Shirkei looked around and saw Immortal King Linglong and the other 5 immortal kings following closely behind. He had heard that the War Kingdom was about to be destroyed. How could they still mobilize so many people? "Lin Zhan, what are you trying to do?" Immortal King Shirkei asked slowly. "You've led an army to the Crimson Cloud Palace. Are you trying to start a war with the Crimson Cloud Palace?" "So what if I am?" Lin Zhan was completely fearless. "If you dare to touch the people of Tianhuang mainland, I'll dare to flatten the Crimson Cloud Palace." "Ha ha ha ha." Immortal King Shirkei laughed loudly and said, "Immortal Emperor Qing Shao is already dead. Do you think the War Kingdom and these people from Tianhuang mainland can flatten the Crimson Cloud Palace?" No matter what, the Crimson Cloud Palace had the Crimson Cloud Immortal Emperor. If it weren't for the 2 demon monarchs from the Great Wasteland Domain, the current situation would still be under Immortal King Shirkei's control. At this moment, another crack appeared in the sky. A few figures descended. One of them was an old man with an iron crown on his head. He stood straight with his hands behind his back. The aura he emitted was no weaker than the nine-tailed demon monarch and the divine elephant demon monarch. Immortal King Shirkei didn't know this old man with the iron crown, but he knew Lu Yun and the other peak masters of the Sword World. Is that the celestial emperor of the Sword World? Immortal King Shirkei's heart skipped a beat. Fellow Taoists of the Sword World, what brings you here? Immortal King Shirkei cupped his hands and asked. The old man with the iron crown didn't even look at him. He kept looking at the sky with his hands behind his back. Lu Yun, the peak master of the Sword World, smiled and said, I heard that you want to touch two people from Tianhuang mainland. What a coincidence. The peak master of the ninth sword peak, Kitsune, is from Tianhuang mainland. Kitsune glanced coldly at Immortal King Shirquebec. She didn't say a word and descended to guard Xiaoning. True spirit? Immortal King Shirkei's eyes flickered. If it was just Kitsune, of course, there was nothing to be afraid of. But what did the Sword World mean? Several immortal kings, and even an imperial lord of the Sword World, personally came to escort them. Who were they trying to scare? Count me in. Tianhuang mainland. The void cracked open, and a voice rang out. Immediately after, a young man rushed out. He was also a true spirit, but his bloodline was extraordinary. He came to Kitsune's side and smiled as he called her senior sister. Who was this? The immortal kings of the Crimson Heavens Palace had ugly expressions, and their eyelids twitched. What was going on? They were just chasing two true spirits from the lower realm. Why did it seem like they had poked a hornet's nest? Two figures could be seen emerging from the crack. This was Imperial Lord Kuan of the North. Imperial Lord Nanpong. The two realm lords of the Kuan Pong realm were personally escorting them. That young man just now, was he the young master of the Kuan Pong realm? Chapter 3106. The 300 or so immortal kings of Crimson Heaven Palace were instantly suppressed by the appearance of these immortal emperors. They were all bewildered and uneasy. Don't worry. Emperor North Kuan looked around and waved his hand. The two of us have nothing to do with Crimson Heaven Palace and the Heaven Realm, so we won't interfere. It's just that this kid is too stubborn. We're just here to keep an eye on him, and don't let him get hurt. As he spoke, Emperor North Kuan pointed at Carefree, who was with the people of planet Tianhuang. Immortal King Shirkei frowned. Although Emperor North Kuan said that he wouldn't interfere, who would dare to hurt the young master of Kuan Pong with two immortal emperors and a realm lord watching over him? In other words, even if the young master of Kuan Pong rushed up and slapped him, he might not dare to fight back. Why were there so many fierce people on planet Tianhuang? Another crack appeared in the sky. Several figures with golden hair and blue eyes appeared. Protoss? Everyone was shocked again. There were no immortal emperors among the Protoss, but there were a few immortal kings. The woman in the lead was wearing a crown. She was obviously the Protoss goddess. Why would the Protoss be alarmed by such a small matter in Crimson Heaven Immortal Region? Fellow Taoists of the Divines, Immortal King Shirkei took a deep breath and was about to speak. One of the immortal kings interrupted him and pointed at Nian Qi. We sent her here. Nian Qi descended and greeted the people of planet Tianhuang. Another person from planet Tianhuang? At this moment, a low rumble of thunder came from the distant sky. It was as if thousands of soldiers and horses were galloping in the sky. The next moment, banners fluttered in the wind, with the words Planet Tianhuang written on them. The leader carried a large spear on his shoulder and stepped on wind and thunder. His eyes were like lightning as he strode over with a monstrous aura. Feng Cantion led 100,000 soldiers of planet Tianhuang into Crimson Heaven Immortal Region. Since almost all the immortal kings of the Crimson Heaven Immortal Domain had been mobilized to besiege Ning and the Night Spirit, the army of Heaven Wasteland Immortal Domain marched straight in with irresistible force. Behind Feng Cantion were Ming Zhan, Yin Beichen, Demonish Ji, and other people from Heaven Wasteland region. Brother Feng, Lin Zhan was agitated when he saw the person who came. He shouted loudly, Brother Lin, fellow Taoist Ling Long. Feng Cantion also laughed loudly. There were many cultivators from Tianhuang mainland present, but Lin Zhan, Feng Cantian, and immortal King Ling Long were experts from the same era. In Tianhuang mainland, it was the golden era of the ancient era where emperors rose together. The Night Spirit brothers, Xiaoning, Nian Qi, and Yin Beichen belonged to the later generations of Wu Dao's prosperity and the revival of the human race. The two great flourishing ages were separated by a long time, yet they were both incomparably glorious. Countless resplendent radiance emerged, illuminating the past and present. Some had already passed away. As for the survivors of Tianhuang mainland, the elites and paragons of two prosperous eras were finally gathered at this moment. It was a strange feeling. The people of the two eras seemed to have crossed the river of time and gathered in the upper world. That's the human emperor of Tianhuang mainland, and the one beside him is Fairy Ling Long, who founded Enigma Palace. Wow! It was the first time the tiger, Qing, Xiaoning, and the others saw Lin Zhan and immortal King Ling Long, and they couldn't help but exclaim. To them, these experts were the seniors and ancestors that they respected the most. That's the Thunder Emperor, the current immortal King Heaven's Wrath. As expected of the human emperor and Thunder Emperor, they came with an army of 100,000. How heroic! In midair, Lin Zhan, immortal King Ling Long, and Feng Cantian reunited. They were excited and emotional. Lin Zhan said, "We're the only ones left from that era on Tianhuang mainland. It's a pity that Brother Zhang Yi couldn't wait until now." At the mention of true immortal Zhang Yi, Feng Santian's eyes dimmed. Then, he clenched his fist slightly and said, "Fortunately, Zimo killed Yuan Zhua, cut off his head, and sent it to Brother Zhang Yi. He can die without regrets." In the ancient times, the various emperors rose together and created a glorious era that belonged to the human race. However, the great Tao was heartless. Today, only the three of them were left. Immortal King Stone K's expression had become extremely ugly. The Demon Realm's Tianhuang sect had also come. The Tianhuang sect was not strong. However, there were rumors that the Great Wasteland Domain's Emperor Araki Takashi was once the Demon Realm's Demon Araki Takashi. For so many years, the Demon Realm had been under the rule of the World Devastation Demon Emperor, but the World Devastation Demon Emperor had never touched the Tianhuang sect. It was very likely because of this reason. Immortal King Stone K realized that the situation was no longer under his control. He had only wanted to kill two servants. Who would have thought that he would cause such a big trouble? Other than the Tianhuang sect, the War Kingdom, and the Purple Xian Immortal Kingdom, there was also the Great Wasteland Domain, the Kuanpeng Domain, the Sword Domain, the Light Domain. These were all super large domains. Immortal King Stone K even suspected that these domains were going to join forces and start a domain war against the Heaven Realm. Everyone, there must be some misunderstanding here. Immortal King Stone K saw that the situation was not good, so he quickly changed his words and explained, "I don't look down on Tianhuang mainland. Previously, I was only targeting the two traitors of the Crimson Heaven Palace." Traitors? Tiger laughed loudly when he heard this and said, "Prince Dog with your brain. You won't even know how you died today. If you chase after the two of them, you will become the enemy of Tianhuang mainland." Feng Santian's gaze fell on Immortal King Stone K as he said coldly. Immortal King Stone K's cultivation level was clearly higher than Feng Santian's, but when he faced Feng Santian's gaze, he felt a huge pressure. Since fellow cultivators of Tianhuang mainland want to protect them, then let's forget about today's matter for now. We'll meet again someday. Immortal King Stone K forced a smile and said with cupped fists. He turned around and tore through the void to escape. Boom! Just as he tore a crack in the void, a pitch-black and thick long rod with golden light flew out diagonally. It descended from the sky and shattered the spatial tunnel. "Who said you could leave?" A voice filled with murderous intent sounded. Hearing this voice, Night Spirit, Tiger, Qing, Little Fox, and the Golden Lion shuddered and looked over in disbelief. A tall figure walked out from a crack in the void. His body was covered in long hair, his arms were extremely long, and his eyes were bloodshot. It was Monkey. Monkey! Tiger and the others' eyes lit up as they called out loudly. Monkey turned around and looked at Night Spirit, Qing, Tiger, little fox, and the golden lion below. He subconsciously clenched his fists and tried his best to suppress the excitement in his heart. He descended and pretended to be calm as he nodded and said, "Everyone is here. Stop pretending." Tiger was the first to pounce forward and hugged Monkey. Monkey was just about to give him a backhand slap when Night Spirit and the rest rushed forward. Behind Monkey, Long Ran also rushed out and shouted, "The dragons are here too." The hearts of the immortal kings of Crimson Heaven Palace skipped a beat when they heard this. Could it be that a few super great realms had joined forces to start a realm war against the Heaven Realm? Chapter 3107. Along with Long Ran, Long Li and the Nightmare Dragon King walked out. There was also the new master of the Dragon World, Frost Dragon Emperor. Another Imperial Lord and the World Lord of the Dragon World had arrived. Although the Dragon World was severely injured and weakened after the war between the dragons and phoenixes, no one dared to underestimate the combat strength of the dragons. Until now, Immortal King Stone K was still puzzled. It did not seem realistic that so many experts of the realms had appeared just for the two true spirits of Tianhuang mainland. Judging from the expressions of the Imperial Lords and World Lords, none of them seemed to know Su Xiaoning and Night Spirit. Who was it that had the power to gather the experts of these super realms? Just as Immortal King Stone K was puzzled, two more figures walked out from behind Long Ran and the others. One of them had black hair and green robes. He had delicate features and looked like a scholar. The other person wore gray Taoist robes and had a fair face without a beard. He held a folding fan in his hands and looked around with bright eyes. When Su Xiaoning caught sight of the green-robed man, her eyes reddened instantly as tears streamed down her face. Her red lips parted slightly as she called out softly, "Brother." All these years of longing, hardship, sadness, and grievances, all sorts of emotions were contained in that call. The siblings had been through many hardships along the path of cultivation. After parting ways in Tianhuang mainland, they finally reunited at this moment. Su Zimo's eyes flickered with gentleness when he caught sight of Xiaoning. Initially, there were three of them. Each time the two of them reunited, they could not help but think of their elder brother, Su Hong, who had protected them throughout their growth. Su Hong had once passed away in front of Su Zimo. At that time, he was helpless. He would definitely not let the same tragedy happen to Xiaoning. In Su Zimo's heart, no matter what cultivation realm Xiaoning was at, she would always be that little girl who loved to pester him and would never grow up. "Brother, hurry, come over. We're waiting for you." When Tiger and the others saw Su Zimo, they were excited and called out loudly. For some reason, a strange thought flashed through Immortal King Stone K's mind when he saw that. Perhaps this green-robed cultivator was the key? However, he quickly rejected this idea. This person looked like he was only at the large success stage of the Grotto Heaven realm. His cultivation level was even lower than his. How could he have gathered so many super great realms to help him? This person looks familiar. At that moment, someone from the Crimson Heaven Palace whispered among themselves, "I remember now. I saw him at the continent of the Nine Clouds back then. He's Su Zimo from the Cosmos Academy. That creation Qinglian? I heard that he was hunted down by the patriarch of the academy. He ran into the emperor's tomb and died." No, this person is Su Zhu from the Sword World. I've seen him before in the Celestial Tribute World. A true spirit said in a deep voice, "Back then, in the evil demon battlefield, I saw with my own eyes that this person, at the Kongming stage, defeated more than 20 true spirits by himself. It left a deep impression on me." Su Zimo? Su Zhu? Immortal King Shirkei frowned and felt a headache coming on. Hearing the name Su Zhu, Yunju smiled and looked at Su Zimo with a complicated gaze. Emperor Araki Takashi and the Blood Butterfly Demonic Empress had appeared in a high-profile manner and swept through the 3,000 realms together. She had naturally heard of them long ago. Yunju also knew that although she was a book immortal, she was far inferior to the Blood Butterfly Demonic Empress. Moreover, she had learned from Momo that Su Zimo and the Blood Butterfly Demonic Empress had known each other for a long time. In fact, the main reason why Su Zimo had been able to reach this step in cultivation was because he wanted to follow in the footsteps of the Blood Butterfly Demonic Empress. Her fate with Suzimo could only end here. Clothes are not as good as new. People are not as good as old. Yunju lowered her head and smiled faintly. Perhaps it was because she had read a lot of books and was used to the romance between men and women, but she was able to see through this matter. Even if the two of them were not fated to be together, in her heart, Suzimo was still different from others. Huh, isn't that Dao Master from Tianhuang Mainland? That's right. What's his name again? He's a storyteller. Tiger noticed that the person beside Suzimo looked familiar and started discussing. Night Spirit recognized the person with a single glance and said, Lin Xuanji. Back then, Lin Xuanji, Suzimo, and Night Spirit ate a dragon egg in the forbidden grounds of the dragons of Tianhuang Mainland. Of course, most of it was eaten by Suzimo and Night Spirit while Lin Xuanji licked the bottom. Later on, Lin Xuanji even had designs on him and wanted to kidnap him. Suzimo arrived slightly later because he met Lin Xuanji on the way and was delayed for a moment. Lin Xuanji was initially at Heaven and Earth Academy. According to him, he observed the celestial phenomena for a day and night and saw the stars rising in the east. With that, he knew that a calamity was about to befall the Pill Heaven immortal realm, and thus, he calculated with his fingers. Lin Xuanji was eloquent in front of Suzimo, and his saliva flew everywhere. If not for the fact that Suzimo interrupted him with a darkened expression, no one knew how long he would have to go on. After being interrupted by Suzimo, Lin Xuanji licked his lips, seemingly unsatisfied. No matter what, the fact that Lin Xuanji could calculate their journey and even find them halfway proved that he was rather capable. At the mention of that, Lin Xuanji was rather smug. Lin Xuanji ran over and greeted everyone. When he caught sight of Immortal King Ling Long, his expression changed. Immortal King Ling Long had heard Suzimo mention this person before and was looking at him with a fake smile at this moment. Greetings, Grandmaster Ling Long. Lin Xuanji came before Immortal King Ling Long and bowed. Hurry and get up. Immortal King Ling Long helped him up hurriedly and smiled. You're also a Grotto Heaven Immortal King. Now that you're in the upper realm, you don't have to care about your seniority in the lower realm. Lin Xuanji's cultivation technique was unique. Although there were many experts present, not many could see through his cultivation. To think that Immortal King Ling Long would see through it with a single glance. The reason why Lin Xuanji could cultivate so quickly was because of Elder Xian's unreserved inheritance. You're the storyteller of this generation of Enigma Palace, right? Immortal King Ling Long asked with a smile. That's right. Lin Xuanji nodded. How did you know, Grandmaster Ling Long? Immortal King Ling Long smiled. Seeing how talkative you are, you must be bored out of your mind because you don't have a place to tell stories. Martial Ancestor Ling Long truly has divine foresight. She's wise and powerful, and her foresight is godly. Lin Xuanji started bragging as soon as he opened his mouth. Fairy Ling Long blushed at his words and shouted, Stop! Lin Xuanji coughed gently. Actually, Immortal King Ling Long was right. He had been bored out of his mind all these years. After accepting Elder Xian's inheritance and becoming the 10th Elder of Heaven and Earth Academy, he could not casually appear in public, let alone go around telling stories and telling fortunes. Elder Xian was severely injured by the Academy's patriarch and imparted Lin Xuanji his Dao techniques. He had expended a lot of energy and did not have much lifespan left. Lin Xuanji did not dare to tell Elder Xian as he was afraid that Elder Xian would not be able to take it and be nagged to death by him. Therefore, Lin Xuanji had been bored out of his mind all these years. This time, he finally made use of the opportunity of Heaven and Earth Academy attending the 10,000-year meeting of the Divine Firmament Immortal Realm to sneak out. Chapter 3108. I wonder if I should address you as Suzimo or Suzhu? Immortal King Stone K asked in a deep voice. That's not important. Suzimo glanced at him coldly, then pointed at Ning and said, Just remember one thing. I'm her brother. Haha. Immortal King Stone K smiled and said, I'm also infatuated with your sister, so I acted a little too aggressively. Fortunately, I didn't hurt her. Fellow Taoist, if you don't mind, follow me to Crimson Heaven Palace. I'll personally offer you tea as an apology. Immortal King Stone K saw that the situation was bad and began to show weakness. No matter what, he had to return to Crimson Heaven Palace first. Didn't hurt her? If no one had shown up, Night Spirit and Ning would have been dead. Suzimo sneered and said, I'll naturally go to Crimson Heaven Palace, but not with you. I'll take your head. Suzimo didn't hide the killing intent in his heart. I'm the son of Immortal Emperor Crimson Heaven. Immortal King Stone K's face darkened. You have to know what it means to kill a Thearcha's son. Even if you invite these Imperial Emperors here today, they won't be able to protect you forever. You won't be able to withstand the revenge of an Immortal Emperor. Immortal King Stone K saw that the other party was not backing down, so he began to show a tough attitude. Thearcha's son? Suzimo smiled and said, If Immortal Emperor Crimson Heaven dares to interfere, I'll kill him too. Kill an Immortal Emperor? Suzimo's words were too laughable to Immortal King Stone Quebec. How could an Immortal Emperor die so easily? In the entire 3,000 realms, apart from someone as ruthless as Araki Takashi, who would dare to say that they could easily kill an Immortal Emperor? In fact, Immortal Emperor Crimson Heaven had already sensed the arrival of the Imperial Emperors in Crimson Heaven Immortal Realm. However, he didn't know the intentions of the nine-tailed Demon Emperor and the others, so he didn't dare to act rashly. He could only wait and see. Suzimo and the rest of the people from Heaven Wasteland Domain were nothing to be afraid of. However, any one of the Imperial Emperors from the super large worlds was a peak Imperial Emperor. Their combat strength was far above his. You're too arrogant. Sure K. Immortal King narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, This is the Crimson Heaven Immortal Region. If the Imperial Emperors don't interfere, you people from Tianhuang region won't have much of a chance of winning. If we fight to the death, it won't do us any good. Immortal King Sure K could clearly see that apart from the Imperial Lords of the Kuan-Pong world and the Great Desolate World, there were not many experts who truly belonged to Tianhuang mainland. Only Lin Zhan, Feng Tian, and a few others were a threat. After all, there were still more than 300 Immortal Kings from Crimson Heaven Palace. Suzimo said plainly, Crimson Heaven Palace is not worthy to talk about a life and death struggle with me. In this battle, they would definitely break the net. However, what the Crimson Heaven Palace had caught was not fish, but a group of dragons. Xiaoning said, Brother, this person is extremely daring. He just wanted to take fellow Taoist Yunju. He's an imperial prince. He's arrogant and looks down on us who ascended from the lower world. He keeps calling us servants. He's very noble, the tiger said. Just flatten Crimson Heaven Palace. Feng Tian said loudly, Today's battle will let this group of immortals from the upper world understand that all living beings in the lower world can pull you down from your altar regardless of your status. Flatten Crimson Heaven Palace. The people of Tianhuang sect roared loudly. Most of the cultivators of Tianhuang sect were living beings who ascended from the lower world. They had suffered in the upper world and finally found a place to settle down in Tianhuang sect. They had long hated the arrogance, condescension, and oppression of the immortals from the upper world. They could not tolerate it anymore. Seeing this, Sure K Immortal King also realized that there was no room for negotiation between the two sides. If he did not deal with it properly, he would not be able to escape this calamity. Imperial Emperors, you are all famous seniors in the 3,000 worlds. Your words carry weight. I hope you won't interfere in this matter. This is between the Crimson Heaven Palace and the people of planet Tianhuang. Sure K Immortal King bowed deeply to the old man with the iron crown, Emperor North Kuan, the nine-tailed demon emperor, and the others. As long as he could keep these imperial emperors under control, the outcome of this battle was still unknown. Crimson Heaven Palace had ruled the Crimson Heaven Immortal Realm for so many years. Its strength was not something the people of Tianhuang sect could easily shake. The old man with the iron crown and the others looked at Sure K Immortal King with a trace of pity in their eyes. Emperor Akitakashi and the Blood Butterfly Demon Emperor had taken action one after another, so the battle outside Torch Dragon Planet didn't spread completely in the 3,000 realms. Sure K Immortal King hadn't realized what kind of opponent he was facing. In the battle outside Torch Dragon Planet, Suzimo had killed more than 1,000 Grotto Heavenly Kings in the face of an army of hundreds of millions of soldiers from more than 100 realms. The 300 or so immortal kings of Crimson Heaven Palace were not enough. Shirkei, Immortal King, looked around and said loudly, "Everyone, the people of Tianhuang's sect are going to flatten Crimson Heaven Palace today. This concerns everyone here, every sect, and every family. If the people of Tianhuang's sect win, we will lose everything we have now." Shirkei, Immortal King's words hit the sore spot of many of the imperial emperors. In the Crimson Heaven Immortal Realm, the sects, kingdoms, and Crimson Heaven Palace had long formed a complicated relationship. They were deeply rooted and monopolized all cultivation resources. If Crimson Heaven Palace was destroyed, they wouldn't be any better off. It was the same in the Divine Firmament Immortal Realm. Therefore, Feng Santian's rise back then was like a thorn in the side of the immortals from the upper world. In the end, he was imprisoned for hundreds of thousands of years and never saw the light of day. Shirkei, Immortal King's passionate words had indeed aroused the fighting spirit of the Crimson Heaven Palace. However, he didn't expect Crimson Heaven Palace to completely collapse the moment the two sides clashed. They couldn't fight. They couldn't win at all. Su Zimo took out his four-headed and eight-armed state. He held the three treasures Jade Scepter, the Tai Horsetail Whisk, and the Qingping Sword, coupled with the terrifying bloodline of the 12th grade creator, Qinglian. He charged directly into the crowd. Only peak-stage immortal kings could barely resist with their perfected grotto heavens. Ordinary immortal kings and peerless immortal kings were like chickens and dogs in front of him, unable to withstand a single blow. Su Zimo alone was enough to scatter the 300 immortal kings of Crimson Heaven's palace. He was simply a killing machine in human form. Thunder rumbled and lightning flashed. A large sea of lightning surged. Feng Cantion was in the middle of it. He was like a god born from lightning, waving his long spear and killing in all directions. Lin Zhan directly faced the Boundary Emperors from Crimson Heaven Palace. In the same realm, the Boundary Emperors were completely suppressed by Lin Zhan. They were at a disadvantage and were forced to retreat. Immortal King Ling Long used the 9 palace subtle steps and the Shintian tortoiseshell in her hand. She shuttled through the Immortal King battlefield elegantly. The Immortal Kings couldn't even touch the corner of her clothes. The True Spirit battlefield was also extremely tragic. The monkey took out the Battle Imperial weapon and released the secret technique of the Battle Universe. 1,000-foot-tall Battle Soul descended. Together with the Bloodline phenomenon, it was invincible. A True Spirit from Crimson Heaven Palace was sent flying by the monkey's staff. He spat out blood and was severely injured. Before he could react, a black shadow flashed and a bloody hole appeared on the top of his head. His primordial spirit was destroyed, and he died. In the True Spirit battlefield, a spirit wandered like a ghost. Many true spirits were silently killed before they could see the Night Spirit. Just the monkey, Night Spirit, tiger, Qing, little fox, and the golden lion alone had turned the True Spirit battlefield upside down. Chapter 3109. Monkey, Night Spirit, and the other brothers had not seen each other for a long time and had not fought side by side for a long time. Now that they were reunited, it was as though they had returned to the battlefield of Tianhuang mainland. On the side of Tianhuang's sect, Ming Zhan gripped his demon subduing pestle and his eyes were clear with the might of a Vajra. A peerless saber light descended from the skies with a torrential saber intent that surged like the mortal world, causing one to be unable to extricate themselves from it. Yin Beichen struck with his saber, desire for the mortal world. That was a killing move of the Fiend Buddhist Devotion Sutra. There were only a handful of true spirits in the entire Tianhuang sect who could withstand that slash, let alone ordinary true spirits. Demoness Ji's movement techniques were agile, and she shuttled through the crowd with her sword in hand like a dancing elf. Every single action, frown, and smile of hers could cause one's heart to flutter. To her, the word massacre did not seem to be stained with blood at all. Instead, it was filled with beauty. Some of the true spirits of Crimson Firmament Palace fell at her feet and revealed satisfied smiles before they died. "Everyone, watch out. That monkey is here. We can't hold on any longer. Head over there. Don't come over. There's the 7 Emotions Fiend General here." Hurry and dodge. Everyone, don't panic. Gather together and kill our way out. On the True Spirit battlefield, many True Spirit experts of Crimson Firmament Immortal Domain were in a mess and were defeated. A Paradise Void Realm True Spirit of Crimson Firmament Palace wanted to gather everyone together and kill their way out. Many True Spirit experts of Crimson Firmament Immortal Domain gathered towards the sound. However, before they could gain a foothold, they caught a whiff of a flower fragrance. In such a tragic battlefield where blood chi surged into the skies, the appearance of the flower fragrance was way too strange. Peach blossoms of various colors floated down from the skies one after another. They emitted a faint fragrance that was intoxicating like a rain of flowers. Some of the true spirits did not think too much about it and wanted to wave away the falling peach blossoms. However, when his palm collided with the seemingly weak peach blossom, a blood mist burst forth. Poof! Endless sword chi burst forth from the peach blossoms and riddled that true spirit with holes. Watch out! Someone exclaimed. Buzz! All of a sudden, the sound of a sword rang out. Amidst the peach blossoms that filled the sky, a dazzling sword light descended. It contained an extremely sharp sword intent, and a chill enveloped the area, tearing the crowd that had just gathered into two. The sky was intoxicated with flowers, and the sword was cold with frost. Kitsune had defeated the confidence of the true spirits from the Crimson Heaven Celestial Realm with just one strike. With Nian Qi, Carefree, Momo, Lu Ping, and the others joining the battle, Crimson Heaven Palace suffered a crushing defeat on the True Spirit battlefield. TSK. Monarch North Kuan was watching the battle from the side. He exclaimed, "These people from Tianhuang continent are incredible. Their strength alone is enough to crush the entire Nine Heavens Immortal Realm, let alone the Crimson Heaven Immortal Realm." Indeed. Imperial Monarch Nanpeng nodded and said, "Of course, there's a precondition. That's under the condition that Imperial Monarchs don't interfere." The old man with the iron crown said, "Currently, they lack top experts like Imperial Monarchs. Otherwise, given their strength, it's not impossible for them to establish a realm." Before Suzimo left the Sword World, he mentioned this to Old Man Taiguan and the other two Sword World Lords. This time, apart from saving Xiaoning and Night Spirit and resolving some of the grudges from back then, Suzimo also intended to confirm this matter by gathering everyone from Tianhuang continent in the Heaven Realm. The upheaval of the 3,000 worlds was imminent, and everyone from Tianhuang continent was scattered everywhere. Once the calamity descended, Suzimo would not be able to take care of everyone. It was imperative to gather everyone from Tianhuang continent as much as possible and find a place to settle down. Establish a realm? Monarch North Kuan shook his head and chuckled when he heard that. He pursed his lips and said, "That's a little naive. Given their current strength, they can only establish a low-level realm. If they want to survive in the current chaotic situation, they can only rely on the various super realms. Wouldn't they still have to live under someone else's roof?" Hearing that, the Frost Dragon Emperor opened her mouth slightly and hesitated. She seemed to have heard Longli mention that Monarch Araki Takashi also came from Tianhuang continent. However, not many people knew about this. Monarch Araki Takashi had only suddenly risen in recent years. He wore a silver mask that covered his appearance and was extremely mysterious. Not many experts from the 3,000 worlds knew about his background. Of course, even if Monarch Araki Takashi came from Tianhuang continent, he might not stay with these people because he was in the Great Wilderness Domain. Monarch Southrock also said, "We are all monarchs and we know that it's not that easy to establish a realm and become one of the 3,000 worlds. Survival is only one of the problems in the current chaotic situation. There's also the problem of heaven and earth yuan qi. If you want to establish a foothold in the 3,000 worlds, there must be spirit items that gather heaven and earth yuan qi in the realm. Otherwise, how can cultivators cultivate if the realm has thin spirit qi? How many people are willing to give up a cultivation environment with abundant spirit qi to cultivate in a realm with thin spirit qi?" The Iron Crown Elder fell silent. Actually, he knew that Monarch Southrock was right. This matter was also the foundation of establishing a realm. For example, The heavenly world had the divine tree of creation. Under such circumstances, in order to absorb more heaven and earth yuan qi, the Pure Lands had the 3 sacred trees and the Fiend domain had the tree of immortality. Every immortal domain in the 9 firmament immortal domain had their own spirit items and immortal trees. However, even if the people of Tianhuang continent obtained any spirit items that could gather heaven and earth yuan qi, it would be easy for others to rob them if they did not have an imperial lord expert or a powerful realm to rely on. No matter what, if Zimo wants to establish a realm, our sword realm will have to take care of him. The Iron Crown Elder thought to himself. In the Iron Crown Elder's opinion, as long as there was enough time, people like Su Zimo would definitely be able to establish a firm foothold in the 3,000 worlds by establishing a realm. However, the current situation of the 3,000 worlds, Monarch North Kuan said, Immortal Emperor Dan Shao is still sitting still. He hasn't appeared yet. With us around, even if we don't make a move, he won't dare to show himself. Monarch South Rock chuckled. The Frost Dragon Empress expression was solemn as she said in a deep voice, I'm not worried about Immortal Emperor Dan Shao. I'm worried about the 3 in the Heaven Realm. The Frost Dragon Empress did not say the specific names, but the expressions of the Imperial Lords present changed slightly. The 9 Firmament Immortal Emperor, who was also the Immortal Emperor Chanmu of the past. The 6 Brahma Heavenly Lord. The World Devastator Demon Emperor. These 3 dominated the Heaven Realm and occupied a region. Their strength was unfathomable. In an extremely short period of time, they unified the Immortal, Buddhist, and Fiend domains. Without exception, the Imperial Lords who had once resisted them either died or surrendered. As for the World Devastator Demon Emperor, after 40 million years, he came back from the dead. Even now, it was still a mystery. The Imperial Lords present looked at each other and did not speak. In fact, they were somewhat apprehensive about coming to the Heaven Realm. It was because of the existence of these 3. In fact, when they stepped into the Heaven Realm, their hearts were shrouded in a layer of haze. They all felt an indescribable pressure that was somewhat heavy. It was even accompanied by a faintly discernible sense of danger. However, this pressure seemed to have encountered some obstruction. It was suppressed by another force and did not erupt. Chapter 31:10 Divine Firmament Immortal Region. Divine Firmament Palace. Originally, it only had one owner, the Divine Firmament Immortal Emperor. However, after Immortal Emperor Chanmu unified the 9 heavens and became the 9 heavens Immortal Emperor, this Divine Firmament Palace became one of his palaces. In the spacious Divine Firmament Palace, there were only 2 figures sitting opposite each other. There was a peachwood square table in the middle with 2 steaming cups of fragrant tea on it. Without the 9 heavens Immortal Emperor's permission, even the Divine Firmament Immortal Emperor could not set foot in this palace. One of the 2 figures was 9 heavens Immortal Emperor, who had become famous in recent years. The other had black hair, purple robes, and a silver mask. His eyes were as deep as the sea. It was Wu Dao's main body. When he first arrived, the 9 heavens Immortal Emperor seemed to have been waiting for a long time and had already brewed fragrant tea. Try it. The 9 heavens Immortal Emperor smiled and slowly pushed the teacup toward Wu Dao's main body. This tea is not bad. Wu Dao's main body raised the cup, put it under his nose, sniffed it lightly, and drank it in one gulp. Wu Dao's main body put down the teacup and looked at the 9 heavens Immortal Emperor. How should I address you? Immortal Emperor Chanmu, Immortal Emperor 9 heavens, Emperor Bo Sun, Lord 6 Brahma, World Devastator Demon Emperor, or Great Emperor Zhang Tian? The 9 heavens Immortal Emperor chuckled. Looks like you have already guessed it. Immortal Emperor Chanmu, Emperor Bo Sun, and the World Devastator Demon Emperor used the power of the Archtomb to come back from the dead. This means that they have all cultivated the Heaven-Burying Sutra. Wu Dao's main body said, or rather, they awakened some kind of memory and comprehended the Heaven-Burying Sutra. Back then, Qinglian's main body had been able to come back from the dead in the Archtomb because of the Heaven-Burying Sutra. At that time, he had already guessed that Immortal Emperor Chanmu, Emperor Bo Sun, and the World Devastator Demon Emperor had a close relationship with Great Emperor Zhang Tian. and Emperor Bo-sun, the current Lord's sixth Brahma, had long shown signs. Su Zimo had already noticed some clues during the battle that day. After Emperor Bo-sun came back to life, he suddenly disappeared without a trace. However, Buddha's sixth Brahma Heaven Lord had suddenly risen to power. Relying on his profound Buddhist teachings, he had gathered a large number of Buddhist disciples. Bo-sun's understanding of the Buddhist Dharma was no weaker than any other Buddhist imperial emperor. This time, after coming back from the dead and experiencing life and death, he had improved further in the Buddhist Dharma and even surpassed the Buddhist imperial emperors. Only Emperor Bo-sun would be able to unify the pure lands of bliss in such a short period of time without bloodshed. That day outside the great wasteland domain, in his conversation with the Demon Master had indirectly confirmed his conjecture. Wu Dao's true body said, in the lower bound, a blood demon obtained your three corpses technique and cultivated the three bodies of immortals, Buddhas, and demons. Emperor Bo-sun cultivated the Buddha body, the six desires body, and the seven emotions body. His conception is superior. I'm a little curious. What are your three bodies? Wu Dao's true body had speculated that great Emperor Zhang Tian's three corpses technique might be immortal Emperor Qian Mu's immortal body, Emperor Bo-sun's Buddha body, and the apocalyptic Devil Emperor's devil body. However, these three bodies were similar to the blood demon's understanding of the three corpses technique. In terms of conception, they were inferior to Emperor Bo-sun's three corpses. Of course, their understanding of the three corpses technique is far inferior to mine. Immortal Emperor Nine Firmament's eyes flashed with pride when he mentioned this. He said, after several eras of cultivation, I comprehended the ultimate meaning of the three corpses technique and severed the three corpses. They are the good corpse, evil corpse, and self-corpse. Wu Dao's true body pondered for a moment before realization dawned on him. In terms of conception, severing the good corpse and self-corpse was indeed superior to the blood demon and Emperor Bo-sun's three corpses technique. The so-called good corpse was actually the original immortal Emperor Qian Mu. Before he came back from the dead and awakened great Emperor Zhang Tian's memories, immortal Emperor Qian Mu was indeed a righteous person who slayed demons and demons. It was also because of this that immortal Emperor Qian Mu appeared in two different states in the Emperor Tomb. Before his memories were completely awakened, he retained the last bit of good corpse and passed down the Tao art of morning bell and evening drum to Su Zimo. He also advised Su Zimo to stay away from the 3,000 worlds. As for the evil corpse, it was naturally the world devastator demon emperor whose heart was filled with destruction and killing intent. The so-called self was actually one's own obsession. The self-corpse was also known as the obsession corpse. The self-corpse that great Emperor Zhang Tian severed was Emperor Bo-sun. It was also because of this that he was able to create the demonic Buddhist Sutra. Wu Dao's true body said, you severed the three corpses and allowed them to cultivate in the 3,000 worlds. Before their memories are awakened, each of the corpses has its own consciousness. In a sense, the three corpses are complete lives. They have the chance to take the final step and become great emperors. That's right. Immortal Emperor Nine Heavens nodded and said, however, the three corpses encountered different bottlenecks in this life and were unable to break through. I could only choose another path, which was to let them die, awaken their memories, and revive them. Wu Dao's true body said, in other words, the fall of the three corpses in the previous life was inevitable. It was also caused by you. Of course. Immortal Emperor Nine Heavens smiled and said, otherwise, how could it be so coincidental that they all died in the Emperor Tomb? Wu Dao's true body thought of something else and said, the immortal slaying sword Emperor died in vain. During the Battle of the Grand Taiwei Mountain, Emperor Bo-sun was besieged by 20 imperial emperors. Among them, the immortal slaying sword Emperor died, while Emperor Bo-sun was buried in the Avicii Hell. How could the immortal slaying sword Emperor know that his lifelong friend, whom he had saved with his life, was only one of the three corpses of great Emperor Zhang Tian? Regardless of whether he helped or not, Emperor Bo-sun's death was inevitable. Immortal Emperor Nine Heavens' face did not change at all when the immortal slaying sword Emperor was mentioned. Wu Dao's true body was not surprised by this. He was facing great Emperor Zongtian. The death of the immortal slaying sword emperor was nothing to him. Immortal Emperor Nine Heavens seemed to have thought of something and suddenly smiled meaningfully and said, "Actually, before you, there was another person who guessed my identity." Wu Dao's true body pondered for a moment and asked, "The Patriarch of the Academy?" "Smart." Immortal Emperor Nine Heavens clapped his hands and smiled, saying, "The Patriarch of the Academy is a smart and interesting person. He's also a very ambitious person," Wu Dao's true body said. Immortal Emperor Nine Heavens did not deny it and said with a smile, "He took the initiative to come to me and proposed a possibility. You definitely won't be able to guess it." Wu Dao's true body was silent. He really could not guess what the Patriarch of the Academy wanted to do. "He wants to cooperate with me." Immortal Emperor Nine Heavens laughed. Wu Dao's true body sneered and asked, "Will you cooperate with him?" The difference in status between the two was huge. The fact that the Patriarch of the Academy dared to propose this matter was indeed beyond Wu Dao's true body's expectations. With great Emperor Zongtian's means, it would be easy for him to control the Patriarch of the Academy. At first, I did not care about it. Immortal Emperor Nine Heavens smiled and said, "However, this Patriarch of the Academy is really too interesting. I can't even bear to attack him. I'm even vaguely looking forward to the cooperation between us." Chapter 31:11. What kind of cooperation? Wu Dao asked. "You're so smart. Why don't you take a guess?" The Nine Heavens Immortal Emperor chuckled and said, "Of course, he's not qualified to cooperate with me now. With the wisdom of the Academy's clan master, coupled with the Dharma scripture, and his many years of cultivation in the heaven realm, it was not surprising that he could deduce the identity of Zongtian Emperor through the relationship between Immortal Emperor Chan Mu, Emperor Bo Sun, and the World Devastator Demon Emperor. However, Wu Dao didn't expect him to take the initiative to approach Emperor Zongtian and discuss a partnership with him. With Zongtian's means, killing the Academy Patriarch was as easy as stepping on an ant. The Academy Patriarch must be aware of this. He just did not know what kind of cooperation he proposed that Zongtian was interested in and did not even attack him. Wu Dao saw that the Nine Heavens Immortal Emperor would not say it out loud, so he did not dwell on this matter. He just said calmly, "I guess he didn't know that you have another identity." "Oh?" The Nine Heavens Immortal Emperor stopped smiling. "Or, this is your real identity." Wu Dao stared at the Nine Heavens Immortal Emperor and said word by word, "The Master of the Netherworld, the Emperor of Feng Du." If the conversation between the two of them was spread out, it would be earth-shattering. The entire divine firmament main hall fell silent after the martial Dao body said this. High Firmament Immortal Emperor stopped smiling and stared intently at the martial Dao avatar. Their gazes collided in the air. Neither was willing to back down. The atmosphere gradually became tense. The Master of the Netherworld. After some time, the Nine Heavens Immortal Emperor murmured softly and broke the silence. Then, he smiled meaningfully and asked, "Feng Du has never shown his face. How did you guess it was him?" In fact, the Nine Heavens Immortal Emperor's question did not deny Wu Dao's speculation. "I have long guessed that Immortal Emperor Chen Mu and the other two are the three avatars of Zongtian." Wu Dao's true body said, "However, I originally thought that the Demon Lord was Emperor Zongtian, because when I first met the Devil Lord, he was sitting on top of a tomb and called himself the Tomb Keeper. There are naturally many connections between heaven burial and tombs. Not bad." Heavenly Firmament Immortal Emperor nodded. Wu Dao's main body said, "But on that day outside the Great Wasteland Domain, the Devil Master denied this. The Demon Lord once revealed some information. They and the 9 great emperors of the heavenly court all came from the greater thousand world. Their cultivation realms are above the great emperor realm. They can be said to be immortal and have endless lifespans. The fact that Grand Emperor Zongtian is still alive means that he's different from the Grand Emperors born in the Middle Worlds. He's also immortal and has an endless lifespan. If it's not the 9 from the heavenly court, then it can only be the Lord of the Underworld, Hell, Hungry Ghost, Beast, and Shura." The Nine Heavens Immortal Emperor smiled and said, "That's not necessarily the case. It's possible that I'm from the greater thousand world, but I might not be related to them. Wu Dao's conjecture just now could only prove that Grand Emperor Zongtian was similar to the Demon Lord and the others. They both came from the greater thousand world and were immortal. However, it could not prove that Grand Emperor Zongtian was the Lord of the Underworld. Wu Dao's main body said, I've met the 4 great emperors. Only the Lord of the Underworld is extremely mysterious and has never shown himself. So, you haven't even met him. Why do you suspect the Lord of the Underworld? The 9 Heavens Immortal Emperor asked with a smile. It's still the same question. Wu Dao's main body said slowly, Zongtian's Dao technique is inextricably linked to tombs. The biggest tomb in this world is probably the Underworld. The Lord of the Underworld controls the Underworld and reincarnation. Only he can create a forbidden secret book like the Zongtian scripture that can resurrect the dead. Hee ha. Immortal Emperor Heavenly Firmament chuckled for a while, then laughed out loud and nodded repeatedly. Wu Dao's main body said, This is the first time I've connected you to the Lord of the Underworld. Moreover, when I asked the Demon Lord about the Lord of the Underworld, the Demon Lord avoided talking about it. There should only be a few people who can make the Demon Lord avoid them. Just based on that? Immortal Emperor Heavenly Firmament asked. Of course not. Wu Dao's main body said indifferently, That day in the Imperial Tomb, I obtained a treasure, which is the Soul Lamp. The Soul Lamp belongs to the Lord of the Underworld. I've always wondered why the Soul Lamp was in the hands of Immortal Emperor Chunmu. Actually, the answer is very simple. Immortal Emperor Chunmu was the Lord of the Underworld, one of the 3 corpses that Grand Emperor Zongtian cultivated. It's only natural that the Lord of the Underworld gave the Soul Lamp to Immortal Emperor Chunmu to help him cultivate. However, Immortal Emperor Chunmu still thought that the Soul Lamp was a treasure that he had accidentally obtained before his death. Immortal Emperor Heavenly Firmament smiled and did not deny it. Anything else? Immortal Emperor Heavenly Firmament asked. Wu Dao's main body said, You should already know that I've killed more than 30 emperors in the Witch World, including the Lord of the Witch World. Before he died, he revealed that he had a lord. Immortal Emperor Heavenly Firmament raised his eyebrows at the mention of this. Wu Dao's main body continued, I've been to the Poison World and learned that the Nether Calamity poison originated from the Nether Calamity flower. The Nether Calamity flower does not exist in the 3,000 worlds and only grows next to the Nether Spring in Hell. With the Lord of the Poison World's methods, it's impossible for him to enter Hell. In other words, there's someone behind the Poison World. It's this person who brought the Nether Calamity flower from Hell to the 3,000 worlds and handed it to the Lord of the Poison World. Not many people can enter and leave Hell. The Lord of the Underworld happens to be one of them. Immortal Emperor Heavenly Firmament smiled and asked, From what you're saying, the Lord that the Lord of the Witch World mentioned is also the Lord of the Underworld? Of course. Wu Dao's main body said, The living beings in the Underworld are all in the state of primordial spirit. Their primordial spirit souls are extremely powerful, and the cultivation techniques of the witch race happen to be good at cultivating the primordial spirit. The Witch World has more than 40 imperial emperors. This is far beyond the scope of a super great world. If I'm not wrong, some of the witch race imperial emperors should be the ghost emperors that you brought back from the underworld. They entered the bodies of the imperial emperors and fused into the witch race imperial emperors. Amazing! Immortal Emperor Heavenly Firmament clapped his hands and praised. It was unknown whether he was praising Wu Dao's main body speculation or praising himself. Even though he knew that the Witch World and Poison World were almost destroyed by Wu Dao's main body, Immortal Emperor Heavenly Firmament was still full of smiles, as if he did not care. Wu Dao's main body continued. The original living beings of the Witch World and Poison World were all transformed from ordinary humans. In other words, the birth of the 2 great worlds was done by you. The so-called ancestor of the Witch World, Emperor Ming Yi, and the ancestor of the Poison World, Emperor Wu Dao, were also cultivated by you. It's also because of this that the 2 great worlds can cooperate so well and secretly instigate the war between the Dragon World and the Phoenix World. I used to think that the 2 great worlds' war lasted for thousands of years and countless deaths and injuries. The biggest winner might be the blood world or the tomb world. But in fact, there's only one person who benefited the most, and that's you, the Emperor of Fengdu. The Heaven Burial Scripture's Heaven Burial Scripture not only buries the heavenly court, but also the heavens. Chapter 31:12. You're right. Great Emperor Zhang Tian smiled. I am Fengdu, the Lord of the Underworld. There was no need for him to hide anything. However, you're wrong about one thing. Emperor Zhangtian said, I didn't raise Emperor Nether Calamity and Emperor Wretched Poison. They are the clones I created in my past life. The ancestors of the Witch World and Poison World were just clones of the Lord of the Underworld. They were existences like the three corpses. Wu Dao's heart skipped a beat. If I'm not wrong, you were the one who created the Tomb Realm. Great Emperor Zhangtian was Fengdu. He controlled the underworld and created the three corpses' grand art. The cultivators of the Tomb Realm were just ordinary humans. They had been transformed through postnatal cultivation and were good at controlling corpses. The Tomb Realm was also the main force in the war between the dragons and phoenixes. They had benefited greatly from this realm war. It's not just the Tomb Realm. Great Emperor Zhangtian had a strange and even horrifying smile on his face. He said slowly, the current blood world, bone world, and lifeless world were all created by my clones back then. I am the ancestor of all worlds. Wu Dao's heart skipped a beat. However, on second thought, just the names of the Tomb Realm, blood world, and lifeless world alone were enough to reveal some information. It was just that this was too shocking. Who would have thought that super major worlds like the Witch World and Poison World were just clones of the Lord of the Underworld? I've cut down many clones over the past few eras. Each of them is infamous. Great Emperor Zhangtian said, Who do you think ancient demon Bo Sun was? Ancient demon Bo Sun was also a clone of the Lord of the Underworld. Great Emperor Zhangtian was even more difficult to deal with than Wu Dao's original body had imagined. His tentacles had spread to every corner of the 3,000 worlds and spanned several eras. Outside the Divine Firmament Palace, the Divine Firmament Immortal Emperor stood guard in the distance, waiting for the 9 Firmament Immortal Emperor's orders. At some point in time, 2 terrifying auras had emanated from the Divine Firmament Hall, causing even him to shudder with fear. At that moment, a crack appeared in the void, and a man exuding a medicinal fragrance stepped out. His eyes were filled with anger, and his expression was anxious. He was about to barge into the Divine Firmament Palace. Red Firmament, what are you doing? Immortal Emperor Shun Shao hurriedly stepped forward and stopped Immortal Emperor Dan Shao. Red Firmament Immortal Emperor gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. A bunch of servants from the Tianhuang continent are killing all over the Red Firmament Immortal Domain. Most importantly, there are several Imperial Emperors from the Sword World and the Kuanpeng World behind these servants. There's such a thing? The Divine Firmament Immortal Emperor frowned. Red Firmament Immortal Emperor said hatefully, The emperors of these realms came to the Immortal Realm without even saying a word. I think they don't put 9 Firmament Immortal Emperor in their eyes at all. They want to start a war between realms. I'll report this to the Lord right away. Immortal Emperor Dan Shao didn't dare to make a move against Iron Crown, Northern Kuan Monarch, Nine-Tailed Demon Empress, and the others. He could only run over and ask 9 Firmament Immortal Emperor to step in. Don't go in. Immortal Emperor Shun Shao shook his head and still stood in front of Immortal Emperor Dan Shao. What are you doing? Immortal Emperor Dan Shao glared and said coldly, If a war between realms breaks out and the Immortal Realm falls, can you bear the responsibility? These Imperial Emperors came uninvited and are challenging 9 Firmament Immortal Emperor's authority. If it were any other time, Immortal Emperor Dan Shao would be afraid of Immortal Emperor Shen Shao. But now, the 9 Firmament was unified, and all the Immortal Emperors submitted to Immortal Emperor Shen Shao. Moreover, if this dragged on, the Red Firmament Immortal Domain would be gone. How could he not be anxious? Immortal Emperor Shun Zhao's face darkened. The Lord is receiving guests. If you rashly disturb and die inside, don't blame me for not warning you. Do you think that with the Lord's ability, he won't notice what's happening in the heavenly realm? Do I need you to remind me? Immortal Emperor Dan Xiao took a few steps forward and gradually calmed down when he sensed the terrifying aura emanating from the divine firmament hall. Under such circumstances, if he rashly barged in, he would most likely die. The hall was tightly shut. The two of them couldn't probe with their divine senses, and they didn't dare to. Who's inside? Immortal Emperor Dan Xiao asked softly. How would I know? Immortal Emperor Dan Xiao's tone was unpleasant just now, so Immortal Emperor Shen Xiao didn't give him a good face either. Immortal Emperor Dan Xiao smiled embarrassedly and pondered for a moment before saying, It's probably Lord Six Brahma or the World Devastator Demon Emperor. They're most likely discussing the great cause of unifying the heavenly realm. Immortal Emperor Dan Xiao. This battle, which seemed to have a great disparity in strength, ended faster than anyone had imagined. Not long after the battle broke out, Su Zimo targeted Immortal King Quebec. With his bloodline avatar and 4 heads and 8 arms, he killed him within 3 rounds. Su Zimo didn't even release his Grotto Heaven during this battle. From the beginning to the end, Immortal Emperor Dan Xiao didn't dare to show up. Even when Immortal King Ke died, he didn't show up. The hundreds of celestial kings of the Crimson Heaven Palace were slaughtered and scattered like birds and beasts. Many true spirit realm experts were also defeated. The people of planet Tianhuang marched straight into the Crimson Heaven Palace as if they were entering an uninhabited land. Not long after, the people of planet Tianhuang had already killed their way into Crimson Heaven Palace. After learning about the collapse of the battlefield, Immortal Emperor Dan Xiao was nowhere to be seen. Crimson Heaven Palace didn't have any cultivators to resist and had already fled in all directions. Su Zimo stood in the air and glanced around. Qinglian's true body was extremely sensitive to the essence qi of heaven and earth. He could clearly feel that the essence qi of heaven and earth was extremely dense around an open space not far away. However, there was nothing there. Haha. At this moment, a chuckle came from mid-air. It was the 9-tailed demon emperor. She looked at Su Zimo with a faint smile, and her eyes shone seductively. Young Master Su, there's another Grotto Heaven there. However, there are restrictions set up by the Immortal Emperor. How are you going to thank me if I help you? Apart from old friends in Tianhuang mainland, the 9-tailed demon emperor was one of the few people present who knew about Su Zimo's identity. Back in Great Wilderness Domain, the 9-tailed demon emperor had seen Wu Dao's true body. Seeing how the 9-tailed demon emperor was trying to seduce Su Zimo without any scruples, a few people in the crowd immediately looked at her with hostility. Sensing that, the 9-tailed demon emperor chuckled and waved her sleeves, shattering the restrictions around the open space. Gradually, a divine tree that was more than 10 feet tall was revealed. The divine tree shone with colorful brilliance. 7 types of crystal-clear divine items grew on each branch. They shone with brilliance and looked extremely mystical. That's a spirit item of the Crimson Heaven Immortal Domain, the Tree of 7 Wonders. When Yunju saw the divine tree, she said, Gold, silver, glass, crystal, clam, coral, and amber are known as the 7 treasures. Naturally, the 7 treasures on it are not the gold and silver of the mortal world. The 7 treasures can emit 7 different lights and encompass the 5 elements. It's said to be invincible and is also the key to gathering the spirit chi of heaven and earth in the Crimson Heaven Immortal Domain. The old man with the iron crown smiled gently. Zimo, you can take this tree of 7 wonders. If you open up a new world in the future, it can be used as a foundation to gather the essence chi of heaven and earth. Su Zimo nodded and uprooted the tree of 7 wonders, keeping it in his bag. When Emperor Kuan saw that, he shook his head gently and murmured, This tree of 7 wonders has been rooted in the heavenly realm for many years. It probably won't survive in a different environment. Chapter 31:13. Su Zimo wanted to create a realm. On the one hand, it could be used as a place to cultivate. On the other hand, it could accommodate the people of Tianhuang region. If he wanted to create a realm, he needed spiritual items that could gather heaven-earth yuan qi. The Tree of 7 Wonders was one of them. In fact, Su Zimo's grade 12 Qinglian was the only treasure in the world. It was far superior to the Tree of Seven Wonders. Of course, he couldn't stay in the realm forever. He needed spiritual items like the Tree of Seven Wonders as a foundation. Originally, he had planted 3 top-grade immortal trees in Qinkuan Academy. They were the Carefree Tree, the Immortal Willow, and the Immortal Peach Sapling. However, other than the Immortal Peach Sapling, the Carefree Tree and the Immortal Willow never grew. After he entered the True Self realm, he sent Lu Ping and Momo away before returning to Qinkuan Academy to confront the Patriarch. He also asked them to take the 3 immortal trees away. He just didn't know if the Carefree Tree and the Immortal Willow had taken root and sprouted. As long as these immortal trees could survive, the problem of gathering Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi would be solved. Carefree, it's time to go back with us. Seeing that the situation was settled, Emperor Bei Kuan urged Carefree to leave with him and Emperor Nan Peng as soon as possible. Ever since they set foot on the land of the Heaven Realm, they felt a little uneasy. They had been to the Heaven Realm before, but they had never felt this way. It's over so soon? Carefree felt that he hadn't had enough. Ever since he ascended, he had never fought to his heart's content. Emperor Bei Kuan and Emperor Nan Peng snorted and glared at Carefree. Carefree had just fought to his heart's content, but the two of them made him nervous. At the beginning of the battle, Carefree didn't care if it was immortal kings or true spirits in front of him. He closed his eyes and charged into the crowd. Emperor Bei Kuan and the other realm lords were afraid that something would happen to Carefree, so they kept a close eye on him and escorted him. They had no choice but to secretly attack and kill a few immortal kings who threatened Carefree. Kuan Peng realm only had one young master, and bloodline ancestral awakening was the key to merging the two realms. There couldn't be any mishaps. Master, do you still want to fight? Carefree moved closer to Su Zimo and asked expectantly. Su Zimo nodded and gazed into the distance with a cold expression. It was as though he had traversed the boundless void and landed on the land of the Nephrite immortal domain. Sure. Xiao Yao's face brightened up and he grinned at Monarch Bei Kuan and Monarch Bei Kuan. It's not over yet. There's no need to rush back. The North Kuan monarch and the other 2 realm lords' faces were dark and gloomy, but they didn't say a word. Immortal Emperor Ling Long seemed to have thought of something too. She murmured softly, I'm afraid Emperor Yunyu would never have thought that the life form from the lower realm that he had mercilessly crushed back then would grow to such a level today. On the day of Su Zimo's ascension, he was intercepted by King Yuyun and the Patriarch of the Academy. If it wasn't for immortal King Ling Long, Su Zimo would have already died. Even so, his dragon phoenix true form was destroyed by the secluded Cloud King. Lin Luo asked, with such a huge commotion here, will Emperor Yunyu notice anything? Immortal King Ling Long shook her head and said, between the Nephrite immortal domain and the Crimson immortal domain, there are still the Green immortal domain and the Jingxiao immortal domain. The distance is too far. Unless Emperor Yunyu reaches the Emperor realm and his divine sense can cover the entire Heaven realm, his senses will break through the limit. Otherwise, he won't be able to notice the battle here. Nephrite immortal domain. Secluded Cloud Nation. Emperor Yunyu sat alone in a dark hall with his eyes closed, deep in thought. Under the dim light, one could vaguely see his slightly gloomy face. He was frowning slightly, as if he was worried about something. 300 years ago, he had already become a boundary emperor. However, for some reason, as his cultivation level and combat strength increased greatly, he felt uneasy all these years. The 9 Heavens immortal emperor had gradually devoured the major immortal domains. He led the secluded Cloud Nation and chose to submit immediately because he was worried that they would be in trouble. However, even though they had submitted to the 9 Heavens immortal emperor, the uneasiness did not dissipate. During this period of time, King Yunyu would occasionally feel a sense of fear and trepidation, as if someone beside him was spying on him. However, no matter how he probed, he did not find anything unusual. Only Emperor Realm powerhouses can threaten me. Emperor Yunyu massaged his temples with his thumb to ease the tension in his heart. He murmured softly, which Emperor Realm powerhouse is targeting me? He carefully recalled all these years. Although he had killed countless people, he had always been careful, as if he was treading on thin ice. The people he had killed were all weak people or servants with no background. He had never offended any Emperor Realm powerhouse, nor had he offended any prince. Could it be him? A thought suddenly flashed across Emperor Yunyo's mind. Su Zimo from the Heaven and Earth Academy. Su Zimo had already been buried in the Emperor tomb. Even if he was still alive, he would not be much of a threat to him. Most importantly, when Su Zimo was in the lower realm, the one who stood beside him was the Blood Butterfly Demon Monarch from the Great Wasteland Domain. Would the Blood Butterfly Demon Monarch stand up for him? Emperor Yunyu thought for a long time, and he was afraid that this was the only possible danger. Looks like I have to discuss this with those few. Emperor Yunyu sneered and thought to himself, I was not the only one who tried to kill Su Zimo. I wonder where the Patriarch of the Heaven and Earth Academy is hiding. Emperor Jin, Green Sun Celestial King, and Flaming Sun Celestial King are all in the Divine Firmament Celestial Realm. Yes, I should leave the Divine Firmament Celestial Realm first. If he continued to stay here, the uneasiness in Emperor Yunyo's heart would grow stronger. Furthermore, Secluded Cloud King had an illusion that there was something hidden in the dark corners of the hall. Since he had made up his mind, Emperor Yunyu did not hesitate anymore. He waved his hand and tore open the void, preparing to head to the Divine Firmament Celestial Realm. The void cracked open, and a space tunnel appeared. Emperor Yunyu was about to step into it when a terrifying face with a green face and fangs suddenly appeared in the void crack. Emperor Yunyu was caught off guard, and he almost collided with this terrifying ghost face. Emperor Yunyu was shocked, and his body trembled. He was so scared that he lost his voice. Emperor Yunyu was not prepared for this. Even during normal times, when he saw this terrifying ghost face, he could not help but feel a sense of fear. What the hell is this? Emperor Yunyu was so scared that he took a few steps back. His scalp was numb, and his eyes were wide open. He shouted angrily and took out a long sword and placed it in front of him. Hee hee hee. The terrifying ghostly face opened its mouth and let out a burst of sinister laughter. This ghost face was already scary enough when it did not laugh. When it laughed, it became even more sinister and terrifying. Emperor Yunyo's pupils shrank, and his hair stood on end. Where did this evil ghost come from? Emperor Yunyu shouted, and the blood in his body surged. He held up his grotto heaven and suppressed the horrifying ghost face in front of him. The ghost face floated forward a little. Emperor Yunyu could finally see that it was a tall and burly yaksha. When it opened its mouth, a strong smell of blood could be felt coming from it. Emperor Yunyu finally understood why he had been feeling uneasy for the past few days. It was as if he was being watched. This yaksha ghost was hiding beside him. Chapter 31:14. Boom. The ethereal Cloud King's grotto heaven contained a wisp of world power. It suppressed the void in front of him and exploded with a loud bang. But this time it missed. Just as the secluded Cloud King's heavenly abode came crashing down, the yaksha ghost from earlier actually vanished into thin air. How could this be? Normally, in this state of battle, the void would be shattered and distorted. It was impossible to travel through the void at will. Unless a void yaksha. The ethereal Cloud King was shocked and thought of a possibility. A void yaksha was the king of the yaksha race. Haha. A strange laugh came from behind the ethereal Cloud King. Don't be nervous. As long as you stay here obediently, I won't hurt you. The ethereal Cloud King did not turn back. He suddenly slashed with his sword. Swoosh. A cold light flashed. The void behind him shattered. Even the yaksha's ferocious face was cut into pieces. Dead? I advise you to save your strength. Not far away, the yaksha's voice came again with a hint of mockery, as if he was mocking him mercilessly. A quasi-emperor level void yaksha. This void yaksha was hidden in the void. The ethereal Cloud King was helpless and could not do anything to him. He gradually calmed down. With this void yaksha's concealment skills, if he wanted to kill him, he definitely had countless chances over the years. But this void yaksha did not attack him. Could it be that he was not hostile? This void yaksha appeared only to keep him here, but he did not know what his purpose was. "Your Majesty, what happened?" The door of the main hall was slammed open. Two immortal kings rushed in with many palace guards. Before the ethereal Cloud King could speak, a strange crack appeared above the two immortal kings' heads. The ferocious and terrifying ghostly face appeared again. This ghostly face opened its bloody mouth and bit off the head of the immortal king below. In an instant, blood gushed out from his neck like a fountain. The headless corpse fell limply to the ground. The immortal king next to him was scared out of his wits. His pupils constricted. Without thinking, he immediately propped up a grotto heaven. Suddenly, a huge ghostly hand reached out from the crack. Cold light flickered on its fingertips as it grabbed down. The immortal king's grotto heaven was like a piece of paper in front of this ghostly hand, instantly shattering. Accompanied by a shrill cry, this celestial king was grabbed by the ghostly hand under the gazes of everyone present, and his figure vanished into the spatial rift. His cry stopped abruptly. "Kacha kacha." Then, a horrifying sound came from inside, as if someone was chewing on a bone. Scarlet blood seeped out of the closed void crack. The two immortal kings died in the blink of an eye. Moreover, he had died in such a miserable manner. Many of the guards were only true spirit realm cultivators, so when had they ever seen such a method of killing? Most importantly, King Yuyun, who had the highest combat strength, was watching from a short distance away. He had no intention of stopping them at all. It wasn't that he didn't want to. It was because the two celestial kings had died too quickly. Many of the imperial guards let out a cry. They didn't care about the great crime of disobeying the emperor's order and left the hall one after another. King Yuyun clenched his fists, his face gloomy. This void yaksha didn't attack him, but it didn't show any mercy to the people around him. To be fair, even if this void yaksha didn't hide and fought him head-on, he would most likely be in a precarious situation. "What are you trying to do?" King Yuyun asked in a low voice. The void yaksha's voice drifted over. "My lord only asked me to watch over you. I can't let you run around." "Who is your lord?" King Yuyun asked again. The surroundings were silent, and there was no sound at all. That void yaksha disappeared again. However, King Yuyun knew that the void yaksha was staring at him from within the palace. Time passed bit by bit. Every breath he took in this hall was a great torture for King Yuyun. He was being watched by a void yaksha and couldn't leave. It was equivalent to being under house arrest here, and he had no idea what he was about to face. This was a fear of the unknown. After an unknown period of time, outside the hall, there was a commotion. It was as if thousands of soldiers and horses had arrived in the Yuyun Palace. Before King Yuyun could use his divine consciousness to check, there was already a group of people at the entrance of the hall. The person in the lead was wearing a green robe and had black hair. He had delicate features and looked familiar. "You are?" King Yuyun's eyes widened when he saw who it was. His expression changed slightly, and he shouted, "Su Zimo!" There was a group of people behind Su Zimo. He knew Lin Zhan and his wife from the War Kingdom, Feng Cantion who had betrayed the divine firmament celestial realm, and a few peak masters from the sword world. He had never seen the rest before. Su Zimo's cultivation was only at the greater success grotto heaven realm. He wasn't a threat to him, but Lin Zhan and the others behind him weren't easy to deal with. "Su Zimo, you're not dead," King Yuyun said coldly. Su Zimo didn't waste time talking nonsense with him. He said calmly, "King Yuyun, you destroyed one of my real bodies. I'm here to take your life." "Just you?" King Yuyun laughed and looked around. "If these people didn't help you, you wouldn't be able to kill me. Su Zimo, this is a grudge between you and me. If you want to kill me, come at me yourself and fight me fair and square." King Yunyu said it in a righteous and powerful manner. When he saw Su Zimo, he had already guessed it. Su Zimo was here to seek revenge. In this situation, if he wanted to live, he could only rely on Su Zimo. After chasing Su Zimo to no avail, King Yuyun had broken through to the peak grotto heaven realm when he returned. Later on, he obtained a great opportunity and became a boundary emperor. For experts like him, after many years of accumulation, as long as there was any opportunity, he could improve further. As long as he could force Su Zimo to fight with him, He could take the opportunity to control him and threaten others to escape. Of course, this was just his wishful thinking. Unless Suzimo was crazy, he wouldn't accept his challenge. Sure. At this moment, Suzimo said, I'll give you a chance. Suzimo agreed. King Yuyun was stunned. He couldn't believe it. A gentleman never goes back on his word. King Yuyun said hurriedly, let's have a fair fight. No one is allowed to help. Suzimo didn't reply. He left Lin Zhan and the others and walked towards King Yuyun alone. He looked calm. Seeing that Suzimo had entered his attack range, King Yuyun's eyes lit up. Suddenly, he activated his qi and blood and the waves in his body surged. At the same time, he supported his peak grotto heaven realm, which contained a trace of the realm's energy and enveloped Suzimo. As long as he could control Suzimo, he would be able to break out of this deadlock. Facing King Yuyun's attack, Suzimo didn't stop moving. Rumble. Behind him, a loud sound could be heard. Then, 5 voids collapsed and turned into 5 terrifying grotto heavens. Rays of light filled the air and countless runes shot out, forming a blazing ocean. Almost instantly, King Yuyun's peak grotto heaven was engulfed. Chapter 31:15. The cloud underworld king widened his eyes in shock. He only managed to say one word before his grand completion grotto heaven collapsed. What was that? 5 grotto heavens? Not only the cloud underworld king, but even the crowd did not see the 5 grotto heavens descending at the same time. They were all shocked. These grotto heavens were accompanied by all sorts of shocking phenomena. The sky was filled with starlight, sword auras shot up to the clouds, beasts roared, Buddhas, dragons, and elephants, and the sun and moon accompanied them. Any one of the grotto heavens was terrifying. When the 5 grotto heavens descended at the same time, Tao techniques intertwined and runes gathered, forming a blazing ocean that exuded a majestic energy as if it could destroy everything. Lin Lei opened his mouth wide and looked at this scene in disbelief. He had already entered the grotto heaven and became an ordinary celestial king. When he saw that Suzimo's cultivation level was higher than his, he felt a little upset. After all, he had looked down on Suzimo in the past. He did not expect that after all these years, not only had Suzimo caught up with him, but the gap between them had also become so big. Even a boundary emperor could not last more than 1 round against Suzimo. Brother, how are you feeling now? Lin Luo asked with a faint smile. Previously, Lin Lei despised Suzimo's cultivation level and even advised Lin Luo not to interact with Suzimo. Lin Lei's face was slightly red, and he felt a little ashamed. After a moment of silence, Lin Lei regained his fighting spirit. He took a deep breath and said, there is indeed a gap between us. But one day, I will catch up with him and surpass him. You? When Lin Zhan heard this, he shook his head and said directly, stop dreaming. Lin Lei had finally gathered his courage to say the words, just now. Now that he was dealt a blow by Lin Zhan, he was instantly discouraged and looked embarrassed. Mother, look at father. Lin Lei grumbled in a low voice. Is there anyone who attacks people like that? Immortal Emperor Ling Long sighed and said, Lei your father is right, huh? Lin Lei was stunned. Immortal King Ling Long said earnestly, between you and Zimo, it's not just a little bit of difference. It's a world of difference. Poochie. Lin Luo couldn't help but laugh. Lin Lei's face flushed red. He was a little anxious and said, Mother, why are you also? Immortal King Ling Long patted Lin Lei's shoulder and said, Lei, it's a good thing to have ambition and a goal. However, there are many things you don't understand. It's better for you to find someone else to chase after. Lin Lei, outside the main hall. The old man with the iron crown, Monarch North Kuan, and the others were standing in the air. When they sensed the situation inside, their expressions changed. Although the old man with the iron crown already knew that Suzimo had cultivated 5 grotto heavens, he was still shocked when he saw it with his own eyes. 5 grotto heavens. This is unprecedented. Monarch North Kuan praised. The Frost Dragon Emperor nodded gently. That lad's future achievements are immeasurable. Monarch South Rock pondered and said, It's hard to say. Judging from the Tao arts of his 5 grotto heavens, they are all different and include immortals, Buddhas, fiends, and demons. It's probably going to be extremely difficult to fuse them into a single world. Suddenly, the old man with the iron crown's expression changed as though he sensed something. He looked in the direction of Gem Firmament Palace and frowned slightly. The commotion here had already alerted Immortal Emperor Gem Firmament. In the main hall, the Cloud Underworld King's perfected realm grotto heaven collapsed and could not withstand the might of Su Zimo's 5 grotto heavens at all. Under the impact of the Tao arts and talismans, the Cloud Underworld King shuddered and was severely injured. He spat out blood and was sent flying. Su Zimo had no intention of probing the Cloud Underworld King and released his trump card right away. The Cloud Underworld King's hair was disheveled. He struggled to stand up but felt a sharp pain in his chest. Bang! Su Zimo had already arrived before him. He stepped on the Cloud Underworld King's chest and stomped heavily on the ground. He bent over slightly with a cold gaze. Cloud Underworld King, Su Zimo said, if I didn't end you with my own hands, you wouldn't be alive today. Hee hee, ha ha ha. The Cloud Underworld King laughed with blood in his mouth and said, the winner takes it all. Today, I've lost to you. Even if I die, I won't regret killing you that day. I was just one step behind. If I could obtain Qinglian back then, I would have entered the martial emperor realm and become the overlord of the 9 heavens immortal realm. Su Zimo smiled. Initially, he wanted to kill the Cloud Underworld King and end this matter quickly. However, he suddenly changed his mind at this moment. Su Zimo said, Cloud Underworld King, even if you obtain Qinglian, you will still die. Cough, cough. The Cloud Underworld King coughed out blood and said with a bitter smile, since you've won, you can say whatever you want. Slash. Su Zimo took out the Qinglian sword and cut off the Cloud Underworld King's head. At the same time, he sealed his primordial spirit within. Su Zimo, what are you doing? The Cloud Underworld King shouted with a mournful expression. Today's matter is not over yet. Su Zimo said calmly, I'll bring you to meet my old friends. I'll let you see them off one by one. Finally, I'll send you off. After that, Su Zimo grabbed the Cloud Underworld King's long hair and bloody head and walked out of the hall. Su Zimo's expression changed as a figure appeared in midair. His aura was powerful and was not weaker than the Imperial Lord experts like the old man with the Iron Crown. Immortal Emperor Lang Shao, a peak Imperial Emperor. This peak Imperial Emperor glanced at Su Zimo and the others with a cold expression. He looked at the old man with the Iron Crown and asked slowly, everyone, what's the meaning of this? Unlike Immortal Emperor Dan Shao, Immortal Emperor Lang Shao was a peak Imperial Emperor after all. When he saw this situation, he had to come out and ask clearly. Nothing. The old man with the Iron Crown said, the juniors settled their personal grudges in a fair battle. We did not interfere. Immortal Emperor Lang Shao narrowed his eyes and said coldly, you came uninvited and killed 2 immortal kings in the Lang Shao immortal region. You even cut off the Cloud Underworld King's head. You call that nothing? How about I cut off that person's head now and say that it's nothing? The Immortal Emperor Lang Shao pointed at Su Zimo with killing intent in his eyes. You can try. The old man with the Iron Crown said calmly. His gaze was fixed on the Immortal Emperor Lang Shao, and a long sword appeared in his hand. Emperor Beikuan and Emperor Nanpong looked at each other and did not intend to make a move. After all, they did not have any friendship with Su Zimo. This time, they came because Xiaoyao was too willful. The 9-tailed Demon Emperor and the Divine Elephant Demon Emperor took a step forward and stared at the Immortal Emperor Lang Shao with unfriendly expressions. After the battle in the vast wilderness, the 2 of them had also obtained a lot of benefits. They had many origin stones and world fragments and had broken through to the perfected Immortal Emperor realm. Seeing this, the Immortal Emperor Lang Shao did not act rashly. If there was only one peak Imperial Emperor, he could give it a try. If he was facing 3 peak Imperial Emperors, and the old man with the Iron Crown was the Sword Emperor who had been famous for a long time, he had no chance of winning. Good, good, good. The Immortal Emperor Lang Shao sneered and said, Since all of you are acting like this, I'm afraid today's matter won't end so easily. The heaven realm today is no longer the same as before. With the 9 heavens immortal emperor here, you won't be allowed to behave atrociously. After saying that, the immortal emperor Lang Zhao's figure flashed and was ready to leave. He was going to the divine firmament immortal emperor to report to the 9 heavens immortal emperor. Wait. At that moment, a voice came from below. Chapter 31:16. Immortal Emperor Lang Xiao paused and glanced sideways at the green-robed cultivator below. He said coldly, "Why? Do you, an immortal king, want to keep me here?" Emperor Bei Kuan, Emperor Nan Pang, and the others frowned. Since immortal Emperor Lang Xiao was ready to leave, there was no need to complicate matters. After all, immortal Emperor Lang Xiao was a peak imperial emperor. The group of people in Tianhuang mainland did not even have a single imperial emperor expert, let alone a peak imperial emperor. Su Zimo rose into the air slowly and looked in the direction of immortal Emperor Lang Xiao. A cold glint flashed across his eyes as he said slowly, "I heard that there's a spirit root in immortal domain. It's a ginseng fruit tree." "So what?" Immortal Emperor Lang Xiao sneered. "You servants came to my immortal domain to kill people and take my ginseng fruit tree?" Emperor Bei Kuan and Emperor Nan Pang looked at each other and frowned. They had heard of the ginseng fruit tree. It was said that the ginseng fruit tree bloomed and bore fruit every 30,000 years. It would only mature after another 30,000 years. Every ginseng fruit contained extremely pure heaven-earth essence qi. After eating it, one's lifespan would increase. However, the situation in Immortal Domain was different from that of Crimson Heaven. In Crimson Heaven Palace fought with the people of Tianhuang mainland. After they lost, it was normal for their Tree of 7 Wonders to be taken away. However, Immortal Emperor Lang Xiao Palace did not have any conflict with Su Zimo and the others. If they wanted to take away the spirit root of Immortal Domain just because they wanted to establish a realm, it would be too greedy and overbearing. Under such circumstances, the old man with the iron crown would not help him. The people of the sword world were the most righteous. They were chivalrous and hated evil. This would be against chivalry. Of course, the old man with the iron crown knew Su Zimo well. He knew that there must be a deeper meaning for him to ask such a question. The old man with the iron crown's divine consciousness had already spread to Immortal Emperor Lang Xiao Palace and landed on the ginseng fruit tree. The Frost Dragon Emperor had seen Su Zimo's actions and realized that there might be something else, so she decided to wait and see. "Immortal Emperor Lang Xiao, how dare you?" At this moment, the old man with the iron crown suddenly shouted. His eyes were as sharp as swords and directly locked onto Immortal Emperor Lang Xiao. The sword energy in his body was buzzing with murderous intent. He was ready to attack at any time. Seeing this scene, everyone's expression changed. Even more people were puzzled. They didn't know what had happened to make the old man so angry. "Taiguan, are you crazy?" Immortal Emperor Lang Zhao's heart shook, and he didn't dare to be careless. He hurriedly drew out a horsetail whisk and became vigilant as he questioned loudly. The old man's voice was cold as he asked word by word, "What is buried under your ginseng fruit tree?" Hearing this, Immortal Emperor Lang Zhao's expression changed. Monarch North Kuan, Monarch South Rock, and the others also realized the crux of the matter. They spread out their consciousness and landed under the ginseng fruit tree in Gem Heaven Palace. Hiss. When the imperial emperors sensed the situation under the tree, they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air as their scalps went numb. Under this ginseng fruit tree, countless corpses were buried. They covered millions of miles, densely packed, and there were countless of them. Each of the corpses was extremely thin and small. It was obvious that they were all infants less than 1 year old. Some of the corpses still had rotten flesh and were relatively well preserved. It was obvious that they had been buried not long ago. What was even more terrifying was that these infants were struggling and waving their arms before they died. There was great fear on their faces. These infants were all buried alive. The imperial emperors had been cultivating for so long and were used to seeing life and death. They had experienced countless battles and bloodshed. However, the imperial emperors had never seen such a cruel scene. These infants hadn't enjoyed much of the care and love of their parents. They hadn't really come into contact with the world around them before they were mercilessly buried under the ginseng fruit tree and had their flesh and blood essence absorbed by it. These infants probably didn't even know what had happened to them before they died. Even with the imperial emperor's consciousness, they couldn't calculate how many infants had been buried under this ginseng fruit tree over the countless years. In fact, if they hadn't deliberately investigated the ginseng fruit tree, they would never have discovered the secret buried under it. Su Zimo had sensed it because he was Qinglian, a rank 12 creation cultivator. The moment he stepped into the Nephrite immortal domain, Qinglian's true body had an extremely repulsive feeling towards the direction of Nephrite Palace. Although the Qinglian was strong, she was relatively gentle. She would never have such a reaction unless she was provoked. That was the reason why Su Zimo used his spirit consciousness to investigate the ginseng fruit tree and discovered the secret beneath it. The old man with the iron crown said coldly, "Nephrite immortal domain. You buried billions of infants alive for the sake of that ginseng fruit tree. You're truly heartless and sinful." Everyone from Tianhuang mainland was shocked when they heard that. Ba, Mingzhan's expression was sorrowful when he heard that, and he chanted a Buddhist proclamation. Momo's eyes reddened, and she felt extremely upset. Up till this point of his cultivation, although he had been by Su Zimo's side and fought against others, he had never killed a single person. At most, he had only injured the other party. This matter had a huge impact on him. The ginseng fruit tree isn't a secret. Nephrite Immortal Emperor was calm when he saw that this matter had been exposed. He said, "The immortal emperors of the Nine Clouds immortal domain are well aware of this matter. They ate the ginseng fruits happily." The ginseng fruit tree was planted in the Nine Clouds immortal domain, so it naturally couldn't escape the senses of the immortal emperors. However, all the immortal emperors turned a blind eye to it. From the beginning to the end, none of the immortal emperors stepped forward. "You're wrong," Lin Zhan suddenly said loudly. "Immortal Emperor Qing Shao has never eaten your ginseng fruits. I saw with my own eyes that the ginseng fruits you gave him were smashed into pieces by him. This happened a long time ago." At that time, Lin Zhan had even asked about the reason. Immortal Emperor Qing Zhao's expression was extremely ugly at that time. He wanted to say something many times but hesitated. In the end, he didn't tell Lin Zhan. He didn't expect such a terrible tragedy to be hidden behind this. "So what?" Immortal Emperor Qing Shao smiled contemptuously and said, "I heard that he's already dead." Lin Zhan clenched his fists tightly. His knuckles were a little pale as he stared at Immortal Emperor Qing Shao. Immortal Emperor Qing Shao didn't care about Lin Zhan's anger at all. He looked at the old man with the iron crown and said leisurely, "Iron Crown, you don't have to be so agitated. These babies were less than a year old before they died. They don't know anything and won't feel any pain. So, these babies deserve to die?" The old man with the iron crown's eyes became colder and colder. He asked slowly, "These babies can't feel pain, but their parents can't." After seeing the scene under the ginseng fruit tree, even Celestial Emperor Beikuan and Celestial Emperor Nenpeng looked at the Nephrite immortal domain with a hint of killing intent in their eyes, let alone the old man with the iron crown. This matter had crossed the bottom line of all living beings. What was more frightening was that Immortal Emperor Qing Shao said this so casually. He didn't feel guilty at all. "Haha," Immortal Emperor Qing Shao laughed and said, "No wonder you're so angry. You forgot to mention one thing. These babies were born by some servants. They're as lowly as dust. Even if they're still alive, their lives are like ants in this great world. I'll bury them in advance and send them to reincarnate. In the future, they'll be reincarnated into a better family. It's also a good deed." A sword light flashed. The old man with the iron crown attacked. Chapter 31:17. There was no need to say anything else. It was fine if the old man with the iron crown didn't see it. If he knew, he would definitely not sit back and do nothing. The old man with the iron crown had killed countless evil people in his life. Even so, it was extremely rare to see someone as heartless and vicious as Immortal Emperor Lang Shao. What was even more ironic was that this person had been in charge of the Lang Shao immortal realm for many years and was known as the Immortal Emperor. Even the most vicious demon emperors in the demon domain were not as vicious as Immortal Emperor Lang Shao. Immortal Emperor Lang Shao was prepared and reacted extremely quickly. He waved his horsetail whisk and turned it into a staff that collided with the tip of the old man's sword. Clang! The long staff instantly dissipated and turned into countless strands of dust that gradually dissolved and devoured the sharp sword chi that burst out. Clang! Clang! The old man with the iron crown held up a sword chi world. The sound of swords humming could be heard inside. Countless sword chi crisscrossed and burst out with dazzling sword light. Immortal Emperor Lang Shao also quickly held up a perfected world that enveloped heaven and earth. At first, it was still filled with multicolored light, but not long after, sinister winds blew and demonic chi surged. The cries of resentful babies could be heard. Boom! The two perfected worlds collided and exploded with an earth-shattering bang. Immortal Emperor Lang Shao was obviously at a disadvantage. A baby's scream could be heard from his world. It was strange and mournful. The nine-tailed demon emperor and the divine elephant demon emperor also took a step forward. They held up their own worlds and attacked Immortal Emperor Lang Shao. The Frost Dragon Emperor, North Kuan Emperor, and South Rock Emperor were also eager to try and wait for an opportunity to attack. Immortal Emperor Lang Shao saw that the situation was not good and did not dare to stay any longer. With his battle prowess, even if he faced the old man with the iron crown alone, he did not have much of a chance of winning. Moreover, he was facing the siege of several imperial emperors at the realm lord level. Immortal Emperor Lang Shao took advantage of the fact that the old man with the iron crown and the others had not formed an encirclement to clash with him again. Then, he turned around and fled, heading straight for the divine firmament immortal realm. Unless their battle prowess was overwhelming, or they had an absolute advantage in numbers. Otherwise, if a peak imperial emperor wanted to escape, it would be difficult for others to stop him. During the battle, the space trembled and shattered to travel through space tunnels. However, a peak imperial emperor's movement technique was shockingly fast. In the blink of an eye, the Lang Shao Celestial Emperor had left the territory of the Lang Shao Celestial Realm and arrived at the Jing Shao Celestial Realm. The old man with the iron crown had a frosty look on his face. The sword chi in the world behind him continued to condense, eventually converging on the long sword in his hand as he slashed forward. A dazzling sword light swept across the void and instantly entered Immortal Emperor Lang Zhao's world. Pucci. A deep wound appeared on Immortal Emperor Lang Zhao's back. Blood was dripping from the wound. If his world hadn't blocked most of the sword light's damage, this sword light would have cut him into two. Chase me if you have the guts. The cultivator from the clear sky celestial domain endured the excruciating pain and let out a long howl. His body was stained with blood, and he sped up. He had already crossed the bright sky celestial domain and entered the green sky celestial domain. That sword strike just now seemed to have consumed a great deal of the old man's energy. However, his gaze was still cold, and the killing intent on his body was even stronger. He raised his sword and gave chase. Brother Taiguan, don't be rash. The Arch North Kuan and the Arch South Rock flashed and hurriedly stopped the old man with the iron crown. Seeing the old man's unfriendly expression, the Arch North Kuan hurriedly said that Immortal Emperor Lang Shao is clearly trying to lure us to chase after him. Immortal Emperor Lang Shao is very likely in that direction. This is the heaven realm after all. There are only a few of us. If a arch battle really breaks out with Immortal Emperor Lang Shao, I'm afraid we won't be able to gain any advantage. The Arch South Rock said in a deep voice. With this delay, Immortal Emperor Lang Shao had already entered the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain and disappeared into Divine Firmament Palace. There was an extremely powerful aura around Divine Firmament Palace. Even the divine senses of the Imperial Emperors present couldn't detect it. Senior, there's no need to chase after him. He won't live for long. At that moment, Su Zimo sent a voice transmission. The old man with the iron crown was indignant, but he gradually calmed down. He didn't think too much about Su Zimo's words. He thought that Su Zimo was just comforting him. After calming down, he thought about it again. Even if he chased after immortal Emperor Lang Xiao now, he probably wouldn't be able to kill him. Instead, he might be in danger. He had no confidence in facing that mysterious immortal Emperor Lang Xiao. Of course, the old man with the iron crown didn't plan to give up just like that. Immortal Emperor Lang Xiao couldn't hide behind immortal Emperor Lang Xiao forever. He would eventually show himself. As long as there was a chance, the old man with the iron crown would definitely strike again. Su Zimo led the group, tore through the void, and descended into immortal Emperor Lang Xiao Palace. The Frost Dragon Emperor looked at Su Zimo and said, "This ginseng fruit tree is a rare spirit root. It can bear spirit fruits even without the nourishment of infants. It can also gather heaven-earth essence qi. You can take it away." "There's no need for that." Su Zimo looked at the ginseng fruit tree below and the baby-shaped fruits hanging on the tree. His eyes were cold as he shook his head. A spirit root like the ginseng fruit tree had awakened long ago and must have its own intelligence. However, the ginseng fruit tree didn't reject such a vicious and cruel act. Instead, it chose to let nature take its course and even cater to it. The ginseng fruit tree was stained with the blood of countless infants and was entangled with countless innocent souls. The ginseng fruit tree was also an accomplice to such a tragic event. Indeed, Su Zimo needed spirit roots of heaven and earth. However, he would never allow such evil spirits to take root in his realm. Then, this ginseng fruit tree, the Frost Dragon Emperor hesitated. "Burn it." Su Zimo conjured a dermic art and released 4 flames. Together with his essence spirit flame, they formed the Pentati Dao fire and scattered it towards the ginseng fruit tree. Splash! The ginseng fruit tree trembled and shook off many ginseng fruits. They sank into the ground and refined the essence of the ginseng fruits, causing its aura to surge. Countless branches extended and wrapped towards Su Zimo. In the blink of an eye, the ginseng fruit tree was filled with killing intent. The trapped beast is still fighting. Su Zimo harumphed coldly. His blood qi surged, and he released his bloodline phenomenon. A jade-green Qinglian rose from the ground and broke through the chaos, flickering with light. Although the ginseng fruit tree was a rare spirit root in heaven and earth, it was way too weak compared to the creation Qinglian. It was like a bloodline suppression. When the branches of the ginseng fruit tree came into contact with the creation Qinglian, not only did they fail to absorb any life essence, they withered rapidly and were robbed of their vitality by the creation Qinglian. The branches of the ginseng fruit tree shriveled rapidly. The Pentati Dao fire descended and burned rapidly on the tree trunk. The fire spread along the thick roots of the ginseng fruit tree and engulfed the entire Langshao Palace, forming a raging inferno that spanned a radius of 1,000,000 kilometers. Many cultivators of Langshao Palace had already dispersed when they saw that the situation was bad. Su Zimo and the others stood in midair above the flames. Not only did the fire burn the ginseng fruit tree to ashes and Langshao Palace to the ground, it even incinerated the corpses of countless infants buried underground. It was only at this moment that those innocent infants were truly freed. Chapter 31:18. Mingjin bowed and placed his palms together, chanting a sutra softly. The sutra was not long and only had 59 words and 14 sentences. However, those who heard it could not help but feel delighted, as though all their troubles had been eliminated and there was no resentment or hatred. The countless vengeful spirits buried beneath the ginseng fruit tree that spanned 1,000,000 kilometers were freed and reborn in paradise. In midair, phantoms of infants appeared one after another. They looked at Mingzhan with pure and clear eyes with a hint of gratitude. Childlike smiles appeared on their tender faces once more. This little monk is profound in the Buddhist Dharma and has a benevolent heart. He's merely a true spirit, but he managed to create such a scene by chanting the rebirth mantra. Monarch North Kuan praised. Emperor South Rock shook his head gently. There are too many infants buried here and billions of vengeful spirits are condensed with endless vengeance. This little monk's cultivation realm is not high enough. He definitely won't be able to withstand releasing billions of vengeful spirits. In reality, that was indeed the case. As Mingzhen chanted continuously, his face turned paler. If he ignored those vengeful spirits, there was a chance that some of their grievances would remain in the world and form malevolent spirits that would wreak havoc in the mortal realm. At the very least, they would have a chance of reincarnation if their souls returned to the world and entered the cycle of reincarnation. It was way too taxing for Mingzhen to surpass billions of vengeful spirits. His essence spirit was getting weaker and his body was swaying slightly. However, he had no intention of stopping and his gaze was resolute. There seemed to be an unshakable determination and conviction in him. It was a determination that he would not become a Buddha until hell was empty. It was a conviction that only by releasing all living beings would he be able to attain Bodhi. In Tianhuang mainland, even a peerless genius like Monk Daming would avoid Mingzhen's gaze unconsciously and lament. Vajra's glare is incomparable to that of a bodhisattva. I finally witnessed it today. Mingzhen's understanding of the Buddhist Dharma was clear. Namo Amit Banite. Right then, another voice sounded. It was also a recitation of the rebirth mantra. Although it was a little sluggish, it was recited completely. Momo was at the side. When she heard Mingzhen reciting the Buddhist Dharma, she was filled with emotions and started reciting as well. Momo did not know Buddhist Dharma, nor had she read Buddhist scriptures. He only had a sincere heart. He hoped that these dead souls could be released and have a good home. Nian Qi's heart stirred, and she recited it as well. More and more people helped Mingzhen recite the sutra to share the burden. Everyone was only speaking softly, but these little bits of sound continued to gather, finally erupting with an endless power of hope. Buddhist chants reverberated and Buddhas manifested, ferrying millions upon millions of souls. After some time, the chanting gradually died down, and the aura of resentment in the surroundings dissipated. The sky above Langshao Palace was usually shrouded in dark clouds all year round, making it difficult to see the sun. At the same time, the sky above Langshao Palace was clear and the air was clear. The light of Buddha shone brightly, bringing a hint of warmth to the land. Mingzhen's palms were still pressed together and his eyes were closed. His body was bathed in a layer of golden light, and a series of halos appeared behind his head. He looked dignified, as though he was about to ascend at the very next moment. Everyone sensed Mingzhen's condition and their expressions changed. He was about to break through. Prior to this battle, Mingzhen was only a true spirit at the Kongming realm. Even if he broke through, he would only be at the Void realm. However, it was clear that he was about to advance to the Grotto Heaven realm from the energy fluctuations emanating from Mingzhen's body. This was equivalent to him breaking through 2 cultivation realms consecutively, and one of them was even a major cultivation realm. Emperor North Kuan lamented, "Ferrying millions upon millions of souls is an act of boundless merit. The reason why this little monk is able to have such an opportunity is because of the boundless merit he has." The concept of merit and virtue is illusory. It has always been untraceable. Emperor South Rock shook his head gently and smiled. "I think that he's the one who's accumulating his strength." Boom. Right then, a tremendous energy fluctuation burst forth from the crowd once more. A Dao fruit that shone with a bedazzling brilliance floated out from the consciousness of scholar immortal Yunzhu. Its power rose rapidly and reached its peak before exploding. The surrounding void collapsed and a grotto heaven appeared vaguely. Yunzhu was breaking through and was about to advance to the grotto heaven realm. Splash! Right then, the sound of a tsunami could be heard from Nian Qi's body as well. His blood chi surged and his body shone with a resplendent golden light. A Dao fruit appeared slowly and was accumulating energy continuously. Nian Qi was preparing to advance to the grotto heaven realm at any moment as well. A violent energy fluctuation burst forth from the crowd. Instantly, many cultivators sensed something and broke through. Emperor North Kuan looked at Emperor South Rock and asked with a smile, "Do you still think that the concept of merit is illusory?" Emperor South Rock shook his head with a bitter smile. Most of the cultivators who broke through had cultivated for a long time and accumulated experience. For example, Scholar Immortal Yunzhu, the only reason why she was stuck at the Void Realm was because she lacked an opportunity. But this time round, under Mingzhen's lead, Everyone joined forces and ferried millions upon millions of souls, bestowing boundless merit. Although merit was illusory, it possessed an indescribable might. With the addition of merit, many people would obtain an opportunity to break through. For example, Su Zimo had just attained greater mastery of the Grotto Heaven realm. Even if he received some merit, his cultivation realm would not change at all. With the protection of the Imperial Lords, it was the safest place for everyone to break through. They would not be disturbed at all. Not only that, people like Yunzhu, Mingzhan, and Nianqi had all reached the Grotto Heaven realm. Although they cultivated different Dao techniques, their great Daos were similar. They could gain something from observing each other. After this matter was over, Su Zimo would bring everyone to the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain to settle the final grudge. Emperor Jin of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain, the Flaming Sun Immortal King, and the Azure Sun Immortal King of the Divine Firmament Palace had joined forces with the Academy Patriarch to kill him back then. Emperor Jin also had a blood feud with Feng Cantillon. Su Zimo pondered for a moment before looking at Momo beside him. He asked with his divine consciousness, "How is Xie Qingqing of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom after all these years?" Emperor Jin and the Azure Sun Immortal King were easy to deal with. After all, the Flaming Sun Immortal King was the father of Xie Qingqing and the Red Rainbow Countess. Su Zimo had some ties with Xie Qingqing and the Red Rainbow Countess. If he wanted to take revenge on the Flaming Sun Immortal King, he had to consider the two of them. At the mention of this matter, Momo couldn't bear it and said, "That Xie Qingqing is so pitiful." Ever since young master's accident, his status as the Spirit Dawn Countess was abolished by his father. Su Zimo frowned slightly. Back then, he was the one who helped Xie Qingqing obtain the status of the Spirit Dawn Countess. He didn't expect that after his accident, the Flaming Sun Immortal King would immediately fall out with him and abolish Xie Qingqing's status as the Countess. Momo continued. Later on, Xie Qingqing went to ask the Flaming Sun Immortal King about young master's matter. During that time, he contradicted the Flaming Sun Immortal King and angered him. He crippled his cultivation and sent him to prison. Su Zimo's face darkened. He had long heard that because Xie Qingqing's mother was born in the lower realm, he didn't have a good relationship with the Flaming Sun Immortal King and was never valued. He didn't expect the Flaming Sun Immortal King to be so ruthless. Just because he contradicted him a few times, he was so ruthless. In the heart of the Flaming Sun Immortal King, he probably never saw Xie Qingqing as his own flesh and blood. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so heartless. End of chapter. Chapter 31:19. Momo said, Xie Qingqing's mother wanted to meet the Flaming Sun Immortal King to plead for Xie Qingqing. In the end, she was chased out before she could even see the Flaming Sun Immortal King. Later, I heard that she was summoned by the Flaming Sun Immortal King and died in the harem. Su Zimo frowned as he listened. Momo said, later, Princess Yunju asked around and found out that Xie Qingqing's mother was humiliated in the harem. She was tortured to death by the concubines in the harem. It was extremely miserable. Su Zimo's expression was ice-cold. It was impossible for the Flaming Sun Immortal King to not know about this. Without his tacit consent, those concubines would not dare to do such evil things. How is Xie Qingqing? Su Zimo asked. Xie Qingqing's cultivation was crippled, and he was imprisoned. He would definitely suffer and might not be able to hold on for long. Momo said, not long after young master's accident, Qingkuan Academy encountered an accident and declined. Princess Qihong wanted to save Xie Qingqing, but she was powerless. Therefore, she came to the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom to ask for Princess Yunju's help. Princess, you spent a lot of effort to get Xie Qingqing out of the prison without anyone noticing. When she rescued him, he was already at the end of his life. If it was a few months later, he would have died in there and no one would know. What happened after that? Su Zimo asked. Momo said, without cultivation, Xie Qingqing recuperated in the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom for a few years and barely managed to keep his life. He fell ill and became thinner day by day. When he heard the news of his mother's death, his mental state became extremely poor. His old injuries often relapsed and his body became worse. Su Zimo was silent. This series of blows was too great for Xie Qingqing. Without the hope of revenge, coupled with the tragic death of his mother, it would be difficult for anyone to pull themselves together. Momo continued, later, it was Yang Ruoxu who found Xie Qingqing and imparted Wu Dao's technique to him, allowing him to see a glimmer of hope for revenge. The old man with the iron crown had mentioned to Su Zimo that he had taught Wu Dao to Yang Ruoxu. Wu Dao was originally prepared for ordinary people. Even without the Iron Crown Elder's teachings, Su Zimo would still find an opportunity to pass down Wu Dao's teachings. Momo said, with the help of Wu Dao's method, Xie Qingqing's body has gradually recovered over the years. Although her cultivation state has not recovered, it is on the right track. Now she is cultivating in the academy, hiding her identity. It's good that you're still here. Su Zimo exhaled softly. At this time, the cultivators who had just obtained the opportunity had all finished their breakthroughs. Most of them had succeeded, while some had failed and could only try again in the future. There were still a few people who were still in the process of breaking through. Nian Qi was one of them. Su Zimo had just communicated with Momo through his spiritual will and did not pay attention to Nian Qi. At this time, he glanced over and frowned slightly. There seemed to be a problem with Nian Qi's breakthrough. Nian Qi was the goddess of the light world. After going through the baptism of the Protoss's divine pool of light, she was reborn and her bloodline was incomparably pure. Light was sacred. However, at this moment, a cold and dark power surged out of Nian Qi's body. Others could not detect it, but Su Zimo sensed it because of the nether fluorescent divine stone hidden in his left eye. What's going on? Su Zimo was puzzled. Nian Qi had not broken through for a long time because of the cold and dark power that was born in her body. Under the suppression of the crown on Nian Qi's head, this power could not completely erupt and was in a stalemate. However, as time passed, the cold and dark power in Nian Qi's body became more and more obvious. There was even a trace of dark aura on her Dao fruit. Normally, this power should not appear in the body of the Protoss, who considered themselves to be light. Moreover, Nian Qi was the goddess of the Protoss. This aura, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. In the fiend battlefield and the land of day and night, he had encountered cultivators with this aura. It was the Dark Race. Back then, the Dark Emperor had created the Dark World. However, after the failure of the Heavenly Court, the Dark World was completely destroyed and the Dark Race was ruthlessly wiped out by the Heavenly Court. Some of the descendants of the Dark Race were imprisoned forever in the sinful land of darkness. At this time, the changes in Nian Qi's body had attracted the attention of others. Dark power? The old man with the iron crown frowned slightly. Emperor North Kuin and Emperor South Rock looked at each other and sent a voice transmission. Is the legend true? Dark mutation. At this time, a fierce shout came from the crowd. This time, there were 3 godly monarchs with Nian Qi, 2 men and 1 woman. The ones who had shouted just now were these 3 godly monarchs. At this time, the 2 male godly monarchs looked at Nian Qi with abnormally cold eyes and even a hint of killing intent. The female godly monarch also had a complicated expression. She seemed to be unable to bear it, but also helpless. As the Dao Fruit's power continued to accumulate, the dark power contained within also continued to rise. Finally, it reached a limit and completely erupted. The 8 gemstones embedded in the crown on Nian Qi's head bloomed with divine light. Streams of divine power flowed out like a waterfall and washed over Nian Qi's body and Dao Fruit. The 8 gemstones on the crown contained boundless divine power. It was definitely the work of a godly monarch. Nian Qi's expression was pained. She groaned and trembled all over. The streams of divine power emitted from the crown occupied the absolute upper hand, wanting to thoroughly strangle the dark power within Nian Qi's body. And this dark power already accompanied Nian Qi. Straining the dark power was equivalent to wiping out Nian Qi's life force. Facing such a situation, those 3 godly monarchs just watched coldly from the sidelines. They did not have the intention of making a move to save it all. Su Zimo's figure moved, instantly arriving beside Nian Qi. His left eye turned pitch black. The nether fluorescent divine stone appeared. Su Zimo's divine sense urged. The nether fluorescent divine stone emitted a wisp of extreme power, surging into Nian Qi's body. This wisp of extreme power contained the dark power to begin with. Fusing into Nian Qi's bloodline, it immediately strengthened the dark power within her body. With the help of the nether fluorescent divine stone, the dark power within Nian Qi's body strengthened continuously, gradually forming a momentum to stand up to light divine power as equals. But under such circumstances, Nian Qi still had not extricated herself from danger. Under the collision of the two extreme powers, forget about stepping into the grotto heaven. She might even die and her Tao vanish. Nian Qi, you have to remain clear-headed. Su Zimo's divine sense voice transmission said, I'll recite a mantra for you. Feel the changes in your body and try your best to comprehend. Su Zimo imparted the 600-plus word Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra to Nian Qi. With Nian Qi's present situation, there was no other way. It could only depend on how much of the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra she could comprehend at the critical juncture. Su Zimo borrowed the nether fluorescent divine stone to continuously send the extreme Yin power into Nian Qi's body. After evolving into the dark power, it resisted the light divine power constantly released by the crown gemstone, maintaining a balance. Chapter 31:20. As time passed, the light and darkness powers in Nian Qi's body gradually stabilized. As for the 8 gems above her head, their light also gradually dimmed. These 8 gems contained an extremely large amount of light divine power. Under normal circumstances, Nian Qi would definitely not be able to withstand it. However, in front of the nether fluorescent divine stone, the 8 light gems appeared somewhat insignificant. In the end, the divine power in the 8 light gems dried up. Cracks even appeared on the gems, but the nether fluorescent divine stone did not change. The one who benefited the most was naturally Nian Qi. Looking at Nian Qi's state, it was obvious that she had comprehended the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra. The light and darkness powers in her body were no longer opposing each other. Instead, they were gradually fusing. Nian Qi's Tao fruit was also constantly changing. A moment ago, it was shining brightly. In the next moment, it became cold and dark. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief. He stopped channeling the power of extreme Yin into Nian Qi's body, allowing her to continue breaking through to the grotto heaven realm. The 3 god kings who came with Nian Qi frowned when they saw this scene. Boom! Nian Qi's Tao fruit shattered, erupting with a huge amount of power. It instantly pierced through the void and spread out, forming a grotto heaven. Due to absorbing a large amount of light and darkness powers, Nian Qi's grotto heaven power rose rapidly after forming it. Before long, she reached the peak of initial success in the grotto heaven realm. She was just one step away from advancing another level and reaching greater success in the grotto heaven realm. At this moment, 2 of the 3 god kings looked at each other and communicated with their divine consciousnesses. They nodded slightly and walked towards Nian Qi. Nian Qi had just opened her eyes when she saw the 2 god kings walking over. She seemed to have thought of something. Her expression changed, revealing a trace of fear as she subconsciously took half a step back. What are the 2 of you doing? Su Zimo stood in front of Nian Qi, blocking the path of the 2 god kings. After Nian Qi's change, Su Zimo noticed that the 3 god kings' expressions were not right. 2 of them even had a trace of killing intent towards Nian Qi. Nothing. God King Rieo's expression remained the same as he cupped his fists and said, Now that this matter is settled, we're preparing to bring Nian Qi back. Another god king also said in a deep voice, Nian Qi, there are many experts here. We don't need you here. Follow us back to the radiant world now. Su Zimo could clearly feel that Nian Qi, who was hiding behind him, was afraid of something. Nian Qi won't go anywhere if we don't make things clear, Su Zimo said indifferently. Divine King Rieo frowned slightly and his expression darkened. Fellow Taoist Su, this has nothing to do with you. This is a matter of the radiant world, and you have no right to interfere. Is that so? Su Zimo smiled. That's good too. From today onwards, Nian Qi is no longer a member of the radiant world. Previously, when they met in the celestial tribute world, Nian Qi wanted to leave the radiant world and follow Su Zimo. However, At that time, Suzimo was only staying in the sword world temporarily, and the time was not ripe. Right now, Suzimo was preparing to create a world that belonged to the living beings of the lower world, a home for everyone on Tianhuang mainland. Nianqi did not want to stay in the radiant world any longer. Furthermore, there was a dark mutation in her body. If she returned to the radiant world, she would be killed mercilessly immediately. No one would protect her or pity her. When Divine King Rieo heard that, he stared at Suzimo fixedly and said slowly, "Suzimo, you might not realize what you're saying. You're challenging the laws of the radiant world and making an enemy out of the Protoss." Another Divine King also said coldly, "Suzimo, let me give you a piece of advice. You'd better not be stupid. If you dare to take in this dark mutated person, you'll not only offend the radiant world. Once the celestial tribute world finds out and punishes you, you and all of you from Tianhuang mainland will die with her." Ha ha ha, Suzimo laughed. Facing the threats of two divine kings, he was fearless. He only felt that it was ridiculous. Of course, most people did not know what Suzimo was laughing about. Suzimo said, "If not for the fact that you guys escorted Nianqi all the way, you guys would have been dead by now." Divine King Rieo and the other two were shocked. The combat strength that Suzimo displayed just now was indeed too terrifying. Even if the three of them joined forces, they would not be able to withstand a single round. However, the three divine kings could not believe that Suzimo from the lower world would dare to kill them in public. If this matter were to spread to the radiant world, they would definitely seek revenge. Emperor North Kuan coughed gently and reminded kindly, "Suzimo, the one behind you might be from the dark race." The dark race was a sinful spirit that was punished by all races. The dark sinful grounds was one of the 9 sinful grounds. It was easy for the celestial tribute world to take in a dark sinful spirit. Although Emperor North Kuan did not say those words, his meaning was clear. Dark race? Suzimo raised his brow slightly and smiled. Even if she's from the dark race, it doesn't matter. Anyone who wants to touch her will have to go through me first. That's right, Su Xiaoning added. No matter what race she is from, she's from Tianhuang mainland and is our best friend. Well, well, well. Divine King's son Glorious said hurriedly, "Suzimo, you're truly arrogant to the extreme. Do you think that you can go against the radiant world just because you're the king of an immortal kingdom after flattening Crimson Firmament Palace? In the eyes of the experts of the radiant world, destroying people of Tianhuang mainland like you is as easy as crushing an ant. You guys can try." Suzimo smiled gently. The moment Divine King's son Glorious opened his mouth, Suzimo said coolly, "I can destroy the 3 of you right now as easy as crushing an ant. Do you guys want to try?" Divine King's son Glorious' expression changed, and he swallowed the vicious words that were about to come out of his mouth. "Let's go." After holding it in for a long time, Divine King's son Glorious said hatefully before turning to tear through the void and vanishing. When he saw that, Emperor South Rock frowned and shook his head, sending a voice transmission to Emperor North Kuan. Suzimo is truly way too conceited. He's already offended a great enemy like the Radiant World before the world is even created. Indeed. Emperor North Kuan replied with a voice transmission. If Emperor Lord Araki Takashi were to say those words, it would make sense. Emperor South Rock lamented. They're both Carefree's masters, but the difference between them is way too great. The old man with the iron crown and the Frost Dragon Emperor revealed a look of worry in the depths of their eyes as well. Nianqi, who had just entered the Grotto Heaven, had a special bloodline. Now that he had clashed with the Radiant World, it was indeed easy for him to bring disaster to Suzimo's group. "Young master, will I cause you any trouble?" Nianqi looked uneasy and guilty as he said weakly, "I truly didn't do it on purpose. I don't know how that dark power was born either. I can't suppress it at all." Young master, should I leave?" "It's fine." Suzimo smiled casually and said nonchalantly, "What's a dark sinful spirit like you? I've even taken in a bunch of Rakshasa sinful spirits." He did not conceal his voice when he said that. The old man with the iron crown, Emperor North Kuan, and the others were shocked when they heard that. Chapter 31:21. Many years ago, one of the 9 sinners, the Rakshasa sinners, was destroyed and countless Rakshasa sinners escaped. They disappeared without a trace, as though they had vanished from the face of the earth. The celestial tribute world even issued a kill order that spread throughout the 3,000 worlds. However, no one had discovered any traces of the Rakshasa sinners all these years. At that moment, Suzimo's sudden words gave everyone a shock. Everyone did not think too much about it, and instinctively thought that Suzimo was just trying to comfort Nianqi and hence blurted out those words. Worried that Suzimo would get into trouble because of his careless words, the old man with the iron crown said seriously, "Zimo, you have to be careful with your words from now on. Don't spout nonsense." Suzimo smiled and did not explain. Instead, he turned to Nianqi and asked, "What's with the darkness mutation?" Nianqi said, "It's possible for any member of the divine race to undergo such a transformation during their cultivation before true self-realm. In the light world, they believe that such a transformation is extremely evil and will cause the cultivator's temperament to change drastically. The light world views Protoss who undergo darkness mutations as heretics and will be killed mercilessly. It's not common for someone like me to undergo darkness mutations after entering the Grotto Heaven realm. Darkness world, darkness race," Suzimo murmured in deep thought. Even in the fiend battlefield of the celestial tribute world, he did not come into contact with many darkness races. If what Nianqi said was true, it proved one thing. The so-called darkness race was also a Protoss to begin with. There was another point that confirmed his guess. Back in Tianhuang mainland, he had fought against the Protoss of the lower realm. At that time, there was a darkness army among the Protoss. However, in the upper realm, there were no dark forces among the Protoss. What happened in the Light Era and Darkness Era back then? The Light Emperor and Dark Emperor had both participated in the War of the Heavens. However, there were no Light Protoss in the 9 sinners. Suzimo vaguely thought of an answer. However, this answer was too horrifying and cruel. Divine Firmament Immortal Region. Divine Firmament Palace. In the main hall, the 9 Firmament Immortal Emperor and Wu Dao's main body sat opposite each other. The darkness race was the Protoss to begin with, right? Wu Dao's main body suddenly asked. Of course. The 9 Heaven and Earth Immortal Region. In heaven and earth, where there is light, there is darkness. The god race was originally divided into 2 major bloodlines. One is the light divine body, the other is the darkness divine body. What happened after the War of Heaven between the Light Era and the Dark Era? SSS main body asks main body. Regarding the Light Era and the Dark Era, he did not have the time to ask the Devil Lord before the Devil Lord left. 9 Firmament Immortal Emperor said, "In the original 3,000 worlds, there was no radiant world at all. There was only the God world. Later, a great emperor was born from the Light Protoss. He joined forces with us to conquer the heavens. In the end, they were defeated. The Light Emperor fell, and the divine firmament declined. Later, the celestial realm imprisoned the Protoss in a sinner's land, called the Divine Sin Land. Hee. At this point, the 9 Firmament Immortal Emperor laughed. The Light Era ended, and we entered the next era. However, the last War of the Heavens completely frightened some of the Protoss. Coupled with the Divine Sin Land, many Protoss did not dare to seek revenge from the heavenly court or offend the celestial realm. Another group of Protoss wanted to avenge the Light Emperor and prepared to conquer the heavens again. The conflict between the two sides became more intense. Some of the Protoss decided to leave the divine firmament and create another realm alone. It was the Dark Realm of the next era, and in the Dark Realm, another great emperor was born. He was the Dark Emperor later. The 3,000 realms had historical records of less than 10 eras, but the Protoss gave birth to 2 great emperors. The 9 Firmament Immortal Emperor continued. The Dark Dao Emperor first shattered the sinful land of gods and rescued his people who had been imprisoned there for years. Then, he attacked the sky again. In the end, he was defeated and the Dark World suffered heavy casualties. The Light World did not participate in the War of the Heavens in the Dark Era. After the War of the Heavens ended, the Heavenly Court was furious. They wanted to vent their anger on the Protoss. However, the Realm Master and the Emperors of the Light World chose to submit to the Heavenly Court. To show their loyalty, they began to massacre the Dark Protoss, killing one's own race. These words flashed through the mind of Wu Dao. The Nine Firmament Immortal Emperor sneered. Do you think the Dark Realm was destroyed by the Heavenly Court? The Heavenly Court and the Celestial Realm did have people who helped, but the ones who destroyed the Dark Realm and killed them were the Protoss who represented the light. Back in the day, Su Zimo and Nianqi had talked about the Dark Realm and the Celestial Realm. Nianqi had mentioned something. After the Dark Era, for some reason, the Light World was able to rise rapidly and develop into a super realm. Now that he thought about it, it should be because of this battle that they gained the trust of the Celestial Realm. Of course, this battle alone was not enough to save some of the Light Protoss from the fate of being imprisoned by the Celestial Realm. The Nine Firmament Immortal Emperor said. So, this group of Light Protoss made a promise in front of the Celestial Realm. Once a Dark Protoss was born in their race, they would eliminate them without the Celestial Realm's help. So, the Celestial Realm's Divine Sinland became the current Dark Sinland. Wu Dao was silent. Hearing this result from the Nine Firmament Immortal Emperor's mouth, he still felt that it was extremely cruel. The Light Protoss had done such a dark and cold-blooded thing. All these years, the Dark Protoss that were born were innocent. Just because their bloodline contained the power of darkness, they were mercilessly killed by the Light Protoss. The Nine Firmament Immortal Emperor seemed to have thought of something. He laughed and said, in order to justify this slaughter, those Protoss came up with a wonderful reason that has been passed down to this day. But anyone who awakens the power of darkness will have a great change of heart and become a sinful spirit. With this rule, they would not feel the slightest bit of guilt when slaughtering their own race. In their minds, they did not even see the Dark Protoss as their own race. When they attacked, they showed no mercy. Wu Dao was silent. The poor Protoss produced two great emperors of light and darkness, but later on, they ended up killing their own race. Such a tragedy, of course, should be blamed on those weak and cowardly Light Protoss. However, the source of this tragedy was the Heavenly Court. Wu Dao could not help but think of the group of Dark Knights that Qinglian's real body encountered in the land of day and night. She repeatedly said, body in the darkness, heart towards the light. The light that those Dark Protoss yearned for was not the light of the Light World, but the light that broke the Heavenly Court's seal and saw the light again. The emperors of the Light Protoss who initiated the killing of the Dark Protoss did not have a good ending either. The Nine Firmament Immortal Emperor continued. Later on, they were targeted by Xie and were forcibly dragged into the animal road. Until now, they have not been able to reincarnate. For several eras, they have been suffering in the animal road. Chapter 31-22. Xie was the little girl that Wu Dao's original body met in the Dream Realm. She was also the Lord of the Beast Dao, the evil emperor. That encounter seemed to be just a dream. But in reality, Su Zimo and Xie depended on each other for an entire lifetime in that dream realm. He was not sure if the real evil emperor was the same as the Xie in the dream realm. The Xie in that dream realm was filled with naivety. She stubbornly believed that the heavenly Dao had its own reincarnation cycle. Kind people should be rewarded and evil people should be punished. But in the real world, there was no such thing as the heavenly Dao reincarnation. If there was a heavenly Dao reincarnation cycle, the 9 heavens would have been destroyed long ago. If there was a heavenly Dao reincarnation cycle, those ancient emperors would not have fallen one after another and bear the sins of several eras and endless years. If there was a heavenly Dao reincarnation cycle, the person who hid behind and instigated the war of dragons and phoenixes and the war of the Kuan Pong, causing countless innocent living beings to die on the battlefield, should have suffered retribution long ago and would not have lived until now. And this person was now sitting across from him. Wu Dao's original body had a feeling in his heart, although the underworld and the 6 paths were inextricably linked. In fact, the War of the Heavens was initiated by them jointly to fight against the heavenly courts. However, The evil emperor and Emperor Zhang Tian were not the same kind of people. Their das were different. But what about the Fiend Lord? What about the Brahma Ghost Mother? Wu Dao's original body did not have much contact with those few, so it was difficult for him to make an accurate judgment. The Nine Heavens Immortal Emperor was originally sipping his tea leisurely when he suddenly felt two scorching gazes across him. The Nine Heavens Immortal Emperor raised his brows slightly and looked back without avoiding. Wu Dao's original body was wearing a silver mask, and his expression could not be seen. Only a pair of deep eyes that were as deep as the abyss was revealed and seemed to be emotionless. However, the Nine Heavens Immortal Emperor felt a trace of hostility and killing intent in the depths of those eyes. What do you want? Heavenly Firmament Immortal Emperor narrowed his eyes and asked. Wu Dao's main body didn't answer directly. Instead, he said to himself, back then, when he was on Dragon Island in the Dragon Realm, the Lord of the Dragon Realm was cursed by the Yin Shang curse and lost his mind. Under such circumstances, the surrounding dragons looked at him with eyes full of fanaticism and worship. At that time, I felt that this fanatical gaze was somewhat familiar, but I couldn't recall it. Later on, after guessing your identity, I remembered that I had seen this kind of gaze from the Buddhist monks who followed Lord Six Brahma. Nine Firmaments Immortal Emperor said, actually, there aren't many dragons who are affected by the Yin Shang curse. Not bad. Wu Dao's true body nodded and said, but you saw through people's hearts and toyed with them. You used the master of the dragon's world and some other Yin Shang puppets to urge the dragons to go on expeditions everywhere and make enemies everywhere. In the end, you triggered the great war between the dragons and the phoenixes. Is this my fault? Nine Firmaments Immortal Emperor chuckled and said, you should know that I don't control many dragons, and I'm not interested in controlling so many ants. I just gave them a chance to let those dragons release the evil in their hearts. Those dragons became full of hatred, unable to distinguish right from wrong, black from white. It's all because of these dark things hidden in the depths of their hearts. It's just that I gave them a chance to release it. Nine Firmaments Immortal Emperor's face once again revealed a strange and horrifying smile as he said faintly, do you know? In everyone's heart, there is a demon imprisoned. What I did was to gently open the door of this cage. At this time, Nine Firmaments Immortal Emperor really made Wu Dao's main body feel a sense of horror that he had never felt before. He was like a demon hiding in the darkness, using the weakness of human nature to manipulate people's hearts. In the end, he changed people beyond recognition, cold-blooded and ruthless. He didn't even need to personally kill people, and he could cause countless creatures to fall. In front of him, living beings of all races were like puppets on strings. In fact, the Academy Patriarch was also an expert when it came to seeing through people's hearts and manipulating them. In the past, in Chinquan Academy, there were a group of Academy disciples who revealed such fanaticism when facing the Academy Patriarch. Even if the Academy Patriarch ordered them to kill their friends and family, they would not hesitate to do so. Wu Dao's main body suddenly said, with your means, with the help of the Nether Calamity Poison and the Yin Shang Curse, you should be able to easily control the Academy Patriarch. I didn't expect you to let him go so easily. With the buried Heaven Great Emperor's style and temperament, he would not miss such an opportunity. Nine Firmaments Immortal Emperor smiled and said, at that time, when the Academy Patriarch came to me, I did have this thought. However, this person was too cautious. It was only a clone that came to see me. Moreover, the cooperation he proposed was indeed tempting. For so many years, there were not many people whom I admired. After talking to him, I actually felt a little reluctant. Haha. Wu Dao's main body was silent. In any case, the Academy Patriarch was indeed capable to be able to escape unscathed from the buried Heaven Great Emperor. Too many people died in the Battle of Dragons and Phoenixes and the Battle of Kuanpeng. Wu Dao's main body sighed faintly. The Nine Firmaments Immortal Emperor sensed that there was something wrong with the tone of Wu Dao's main body. He also understood the implication of these words. He asked expressionlessly, you want to seek justice for them? Someone has to pay for this. Wu Dao's main body said faintly, you want to settle the score with me? The Nine Firmaments' immortal emperor leaned forward slightly and stared at Wu Dao's main body. He said slowly, "Many people died in the Witch World, Poison World, and Blood World. I haven't settled the score with you yet." Wu Dao's main body said calmly, "They deserve to die. This is the price they should pay." Ha 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 ha. The Nine Firmaments' immortal emperor suddenly laughed. Then, his expression suddenly changed. He said, "They deserve to die, but the ants in the Dragon World, Wudong World, and thousands of other worlds didn't deserve to die. You should know that once the War of the Heavens starts, these worlds will stand on the side of the heavenly court and block our way. Since we can't avoid a battle with them, I'll use some means in advance to let them kill each other. This will also make our way to the War of the Heavens smoother." "Araki Takashi, let me tell you," the Nine Firmaments' immortal emperor said coldly, "no one cares about the lives of the people in the 3,000 worlds. In the eyes of the heavenly court, they are just a bunch of ants. Their lives are worthless. Because of the Nine Heavens formation, every war of the heavens has to pass through the middle world. The heavenly court will let the people in the 3,000 worlds rush in front to stop us from conquering the heavenly court. Originally, there was no need to involve the people in the 3,000 worlds in this matter. From the beginning to the end, we only have one goal, and that is to destroy the heavenly court. It's the heavenly court that involved the 3,000 worlds, which led to the catastrophe time and time again. The so-called turmoil in the 3,000 worlds and the catastrophe of heaven and earth were all caused by the heavenly court. The heavenly court is the main culprit." Chapter 31:23. Are you done talking? The martial Dao body asked faintly after hearing what Lin Fan had said. The Nine Heavens' immortal emperor could feel that Wu Dao's true body's hostility towards him did not decrease at all after he spoke. "What? You don't believe me?" The Nine Heavens' immortal emperor raised his eyebrows and asked. Wu Dao's true body said, "I believe that the heavenly court is the main evil and the source of all the chaos. I also believe that once the War of the Heavens begins, the heavenly court will order all the living beings of the 3,000 worlds to block the path of the War of the Heavens." In fact, after the conversation with the Demon Lord, Wu Dao's true body had already understood the meaning of the Celestial Tribute World. The Celestial Tribute World's existence was not only to monitor the movements of the 3,000 worlds, it was also to plant the idea of the Fiend battlefield in the minds of all the living beings of the 3,000 worlds. It gathered the most talented true spirit experts of the 3,000 worlds here and let them kill the Fiend battlefield in exchange for rewards. Once the War of the Heavens broke out and the so-called Fiend battlefield reappeared, most of the living beings of the 3,000 worlds would naturally stand on the side of the heavenly court. In addition, the heavenly court had been high and mighty for countless years and had never been defeated. Just the Celestial Tribute World alone had an unimaginable prestige in the hearts of all the living beings of the 3,000 worlds, let alone the colossus behind the Celestial Tribute World. Wu Dao's true body changed the topic and looked directly into the Nine Heavens' immortal emperor's eyes. He slowly said, "However, this is not the reason you started the War of the Dragon and Phoenix and the War of the Kuan Pong. All these years, you have killed countless living beings, not for the sake of the War of the Heavens, but for yourself." The Nine Heavens' immortal emperor's expression was normal. He only smiled faintly and asked, "What are you talking about? You used the Nether Calamity poison, the Yin Shang curse, and your ability to see through human nature and manipulate people's hearts. As long as you told the truth of the War of the Heavens to all the living beings, you would naturally be able to win over the many worlds and fight against the heavenly court together." Wu Dao's true body said, "But you didn't. Instead, you chose to instigate a war between two super worlds, engulfing thousands of worlds of various sizes. Innumerable creatures of all races participated in the war, killing each other and setting off a bloody storm that lasted for thousands of years. I've read some ancient records. For many eras, the Blood Realm, the Tomb Realm, the Poison Realm, the Shaman Realm, these realms under your control have never participated in the War of the Heavens. It is also because of this that these realms have been able to exist until now, and have never been exposed. Hearing this, the nine heavens' immortal emperor gradually withdrew the smile on his face. Looking at Wu Dao's original body, his face gradually darkened. Your true goal has never been to attack the heavens. Wu Dao's real body stared at the high firmament immortal emperor and emphasized each word. The atmosphere between the two sides suddenly changed, and they were ready to fight. High firmament immortal emperor narrowed his eyes and played with the teacup in his hand. In the end, you still want to stand up for those ants and settle the score with me? Haha, Araki Takashi, if I'm not mistaken, you've just stepped into the Emperor realm not long ago. At this point, High Firmament Immortal Emperor put down the teacup and slowly stood up. A terrifying aura burst out from his body, and he stared at Wu Dao's real body condescendingly and said in a cold voice, "How many lives do you have to settle the score with me?" From the beginning to the end, High Firmament Immortal Emperor had been holding back. It was only at this moment that he revealed his ferocious fangs and emitted the powerful aura that belonged to the great Emperor Zhang Tian, the Lord of Hell. Around High Firmament Immortal Emperor, there was an invisible aura. This was not the power brought about by his cultivation realm. This was the aura that had been accumulated over countless years after living for several eras. It was very difficult to resist. In front of High Firmament Immortal Emperor, one could not help but feel a sense of insignificance. If it were other imperial emperors, their minds would have collapsed the moment High Firmament Immortal Emperor stood up. Wu Dao's real body also slowly stood up while withstanding High Firmament Immortal Emperor's powerful aura. This movement was very slow, as if he was under great pressure. However, High Firmament Immortal Emperor's aura could not suppress Wu Dao's real body from standing up. The two of them stood facing each other. The tea table in the middle had already silently turned into dust under the invisible and powerful aura of the two of them. I have indeed just stepped into the Emperor realm. Wu Dao's real body did not avoid High Firmament Immortal Emperor's gaze and said in a shocking manner, "But you, Feng Du, are not a real great emperor." High Firmament Immortal Emperor was expressionless, but his pupils contracted slightly. In fact, this sentence was only Wu Dao's real body's probing and speculation. Back then, in his conversation with the Demon Master, he had mentioned the Lord of Hell, the Great Emperor of Feng Du. The Demon Master's first reaction to Great Emperor of Feng Du was a little strange, but he avoided talking about it. At that time, Wu Dao's real body had such a strange feeling. Perhaps Feng Du was not a real great emperor. Later on, during the Great War in the Witch World, there was a Dark Witch forbidden art on the upper level of Dark Witch Peak. It was left behind by Great Emperor of Feng Du. The power of that forbidden art had far surpassed the peak of the Imperial Emperor realm. It was very likely that it had reached the level of a great emperor. This conflicted with Wu Dao's real body's initial speculation. It was not until the conversation with High Firmament Immortal Emperor that High Firmament Immortal Emperor inadvertently revealed a piece of information that Wu Dao's real body thought of a possibility. High Firmament Immortal Emperor had once said that the three corpses had encountered different bottlenecks in this life. They were unable to break through and take the final step to become great emperors. Therefore, he chose another path, which was to revive the three corpses and awaken their memories. Thinking of the uniqueness of the netherworld, the power of the heaven burial scripture, and the series of actions of Great Emperor of Feng Du over the years, Wu Dao's real body thought of this possibility. The so-called Great Emperor of Feng Du is only a Great Emperor-level primordial spirit. Wu Dao's real body said something shocking again. High Firmament Immortal Emperor was expressionless, but his aura clearly fluctuated after Wu Dao's real body said this. The three corpses' great technique was indeed powerful, but there were still some limitations. For example, Emperor Bo Sun was a peak imperial emperor. He cultivated the three corpses, but he was still unable to step into the great emperor realm. The good and evil double corpses and self-corpse that Great Emperor of Feng Du had severed in this life were also unable to take the final step. The three corpses that were severed could cultivate on their own. Before they were awakened, they even had their own consciousness and were independent entities. However, in terms of realm, they were ultimately unable to surpass the real body. The so-called Great Emperor Zhang Tian might only be a great emperor in the primordial spirit realm. Wu Dao's real body even suspected that the body buried in the tomb of Great Emperor Zhang Tian in the demon domain was not the corpse of Great Emperor Zhang Tian, but another great emperor. Wu Dao's real body continued. You just said that you have chosen another path in this life, and this path should be with you as the leader. With the 3,000 worlds as the tomb, you will bury all living beings of all races to refine the three corpses. You will push the three corpses' power to the extreme and finally merge the three corpses into one, allowing the three corpses' physical body to reach the great emperor level. In the end, this great emperor's corpse will merge with your great emperor primordial spirit. Only then will you become a true great emperor. As these words fell, the situation of the confrontation between the two was immediately reversed in terms of momentum. High Firmament Immortal Emperor was obviously at a disadvantage. This was an extremely vicious and cruel method of sacrificing all living beings of all races. This path to becoming a great emperor would be paved with the corpses of all living beings of all races. For the sake of great Emperor Zhang Tian's selfish desires, every living being in the 3,000 worlds could become an innocent undead under his feet. The battle between the dragon and phoenix and the Kuan Pong was only his first step. Chapter 31-24. Three figures stood outside the divine firmament hall. Apart from Immortal Emperor Shen Xiao and Immortal Emperor Dan Xiao, Immortal Emperor Lang Xiao was also stopped by the other two. Who's that inside? Immortal Emperor Lang Xiao asked impatiently after waiting for a while. I don't know. Immortal Emperor Shen Xiao said. It's either the Sixth Brahma Heavenly Lord or the World Devastator Demon Emperor. There are only a few Imperial Emperors who can get an audience with the Master. Are you anxious? Immortal Emperor Dan Xiao asked. Immortal Emperor Lang Xiao was frustrated and said angrily, My Lang Xiao palace was burned to ashes by those servants. How can I not be anxious? Immortal Emperor Dan Xiao snorted and said, Your Lang Xiao palace was burned, but my entire Lang Xiao celestial realm is gone. I still have to wait outside. Don't be impatient. Immortal Emperor Shen Xiao said calmly, The 9 heavens will be united. From now on, there will be no more Lang Xiao celestial realm. It's not a loss to the two of you. Easy for you to say. Immortal Emperor Lang Xiao sneered. Those servants didn't come to your divine firmament celestial realm to cause trouble. Of course you don't care. Immortal Emperor Dan Xiao suddenly said, Looking at their movements, it seems like they're coming to the divine firmament celestial realm. As expected, Immortal Emperor Lang Xiao scanned with his divine consciousness and looked at Immortal Emperor Shen Xiao gloatingly. The three of us can't escape. Immortal Emperor Shen Xiao frowned slightly. Of course, this was not surprising to him. He had already expected this day to come. At first, he did not care about Feng Santian's Heaven-Baron sect. However, with the rise of Araki Takashi, he realized that things were not going well. If Feng Santian could ask Araki Takashi to come out, he would definitely not be able to resist. The entire divine firmament palace would be destroyed. The only one who could resist Araki Takashi was Immortal Emperor Nine Heavens. Therefore, when Immortal Emperor Nine Heavens revealed his intention to unify the 9 heavens, Immortal Emperor Shen Xiao was the first to choose to submit and join Immortal Emperor Nine Heavens. He had been waiting for this day. If Feng Santian and Araki Takashi led the Heaven-Baron sect to the divine firmament immortal realm to seek revenge on him, he could seek protection from the 9 firmament immortal emperor. From the looks of it, Emperor Araki Takashi had yet to appear, and the battle prowess of the Heaven-Baron sect was not enough to threaten the divine firmament palace. As for the life and death of Prince Jean, the divine firmament immortal emperor could not be bothered with him. If these people from Heaven Wasteland Domain did not give up and dared to come to divine firmament palace, they would be courting death. If they disturbed the mood of the two in the divine firmament Great Hall, no matter which one of them attacked, it would be enough to wipe out this group of Tianhuang region underlings. Dajin Celestial Nation. In recent days, King City had become extremely lively. People came and went. Cultivators and immortals from all over the divine firmament celestial realm gathered there. Most of them were Earth immortals. This was because the Millennium Conference was about to begin once again. The battle for the Earth rankings had begun once again. In fact, it had been less than 10,000 years since the end of the last 10,000 years meeting. However, over the years, the various forces in the divine firmament celestial realm had risen and fallen, and there had been many changes. For example, the original heaven-level force, Qianquan Academy, had been destroyed by an emperor of the Sword Realm. The whereabouts of the patriarch of the academy had become a mystery, and no one knew whether he was dead or alive. The academy's foundation had been destroyed, and the group of immortal kings had dispersed. Although Qianquan Academy had been re-established, it was not as grand as before. The current patriarch, Yang Ruoxu, was only a perfected immortal. There were no immortal king experts in the academy, and Qianquan Academy had been reduced to the most ordinary Earth-level force. The current Qianquan Academy was still mentioned only because one of the three fairies, the painting fairy, was still in the academy. The original Qianquan Academy had fallen, and two heaven-level forces had risen. Along with the three immortal kingdoms and the remaining three immortal sects, they were the Firestorm Temple and Chengshu Palace. The current divine firmament celestial realm had three immortal kingdoms and 5 immortal sects. This Millennium Conference was held in the Great Jin Celestial Kingdom. Due to the huge changes that had happened in the divine firmament celestial realm in recent years, the Great Jin Celestial Kingdom had chosen to hold the conference a few hundred years earlier. They had gathered the various forces together to meet and get to know each other. Although it was only the Earthboard battle, some perfected immortal kings and immortal kings from the various forces had arrived. Everyone wanted to take advantage of this rare cultivation event in the divine firmament celestial realm to befriend the experts of the various forces. A group of cultivators walked over on the streets of the Great Jin Celestial Kingdom's monarch city. There were dozens of people, both men and women, and they attracted the attention of many people around them. Look over there. It's the disciples of Qianquan Academy. The leader is the current patriarch, Yang Ruoxu. I didn't expect him to personally lead the team this time. Qianquan Academy is no longer the same as before. The current patriarch is only a perfected immortal, so it's normal for him to personally lead the team. The surrounding cultivators looked at the people from Qianquan Academy and discussed softly. I heard that in the previous 10,000-year conference, Qianquan Academy's Su Zimo was in the limelight. He defeated 2 reincarnated immortals and forcefully took first place on the Earthboard. Indeed, the previous Earthboard battle was extremely intense. Su Zimo was indeed powerful and even took first place on the Heaven Board. Unfortunately, not long after, he betrayed the Academy and died in the Arched Tomb. I heard that Su Zimo has Qinglian's bloodline. The Academy's patriarch coveted his bloodline and forced him to flee the Academy. In the end, he died. Hearing the discussions around them, the many disciples of Qianquan Academy had complicated expressions and sighed. In the blink of an eye, nearly 10,000 years had passed. To the immortals of the upper realm, 10,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. However, when they thought about it, the world had already changed. 10,000 years ago, when the disciples of the Academy walked on the streets, they would receive the respect of many cultivators who would cup their hands and salute them. 10,000 years later, all that was left was the surrounding people pointing at him and talking about him. Yang Ruoxu turned around and sighed softly. When it comes to the 10,000-year conference, the person you can't avoid is junior brother Su. Back then, he won countless glory for the Academy. Now, he's no longer here. The world is unpredictable. A woman behind him said faintly. Her moving eyes revealed a complicated and indescribable emotion. This woman had a graceful figure. Her black hair was tied up in a bun, and her skin was smooth. She was like a fairy who had walked out of a painting. She was breathtaking. Look, the painting fairy is here too. Where is Fairy Imo Qing? I heard that Fairy Imo Qing lives in seclusion and likes to be quiet. She rarely participates in such gatherings. This trip was not in vain to be able to see the painting fairy's elegance this time. There was a commotion in the crowd. Many gazes fell on Qianquan Academy's side. Imo Qing didn't like the hot and unscrupulous gazes around her. This time, She followed the disciples of the academy to participate in the 10,000-year conference because the academy had just been rebuilt. Although Yang Ruoxu was the current patriarch, he had recultivated as Wu Dao and had just stepped into the true martial realm. Mo Qing was considered the strongest person in Qingkuan Academy. Elder Xian and Lin Xuanji were both immortal kings. However, their identities were special and their inheritances were hidden. The other disciples of the academy didn't know their cultivation levels. Although Elder Xian had followed them, the two of them couldn't fight. Mo Qing could only come. On the one hand, she could suppress the disciples of the academy who were participating in the Earth List battle. On the other hand, if anything were to happen, she would be able to deal with the situation. Chapter 31-25. Among the crowd from the Qingkuan Academy, there was a skinny man with a face full of scars. His face was completely unrecognizable. Even those who were most familiar with him would not be able to recognize him. The Dao skill that this man cultivated seemed to be different from the others. It was difficult to accurately determine his cultivation level. He might be at the Earth Deity realm. When he heard the people around him mentioning Su Zimo, the man with the scars seemed to have recalled something. He lowered his head slightly and felt lost. At this moment, a large group of cultivators walked toward them from the street in front. There were about 1,000 of them. The person in the lead was wearing a long red robe with flames. He was surrounded by the crowd like the stars surrounding the moon. Look, it's the Lingxia Duke of the Flaming Sun Celestial Kingdom. I heard that the Lingxia Duke was originally Xie Qingqing. However, after Su Zimo from the Qingkuan Academy died, Xie Qingqing talked to the Flaming Sun Celestial King recklessly and was directly crippled. What do you know? Even if Xie Qingqing did not talk back, the Flaming Sun Celestial King would have found an excuse to cripple him. After all, he's just a bastard born from a servant. The Flaming Sun Celestial King does not care about him at all. That's true. During the seal-seizing battle, no one was optimistic about Xie Qingqing. If Su Zimo did not appear out of nowhere, he would not have had the chance to be promoted. Speaking of which, the seal-seizing battle was really intense. Su Zimo from the Qingkuan Academy defeated several powerhouses who were predicted to be on the heaven list. He even crippled the Flaming Sun Celestial King's favorite Duke Yin. Hearing the discussions of the surrounding cultivators, Yang Ruoxu and the Crimson Rainbow Deity frowned and looked at each other. Then, Yang Ruoxu looked at the man with the scars behind him worriedly. He wanted to say something but stopped. As if he had sensed something, the man with the scars only laughed self-mockingly and shook his head. Brother Yang, I'm fine. His face was covered with blood-red flesh and tendons. His smile made his face even uglier. The Crimson Rainbow Deity looked at his face and felt her heart ache. She suddenly turned around and looked at the cultivator in the crowd who had just called him a bastard. She shouted, "Shut your dog mouth. Why? Is the Qingkuan Academy so mighty and you won't let us speak?" That cultivator was not afraid at all and retorted sarcastically. The sect he belonged to was also an Earth-rank force. If it had been 10,000 years ago, he would not have dared to clash with the disciples of the Academy. Now that the Academy was no longer what it used to be, he had nothing to be afraid of. Pa pa pa. A round of applause came from the front. The Blazing Sun Immortal King's Spirit Dawn Duke clapped his hands. His face was filled with smiles as he said loudly, "Long time no see. Little Sister Qi Hong, you are truly awe-inspiring." Behind the Duke of Lingxia stood a man. He was the person who had been predicted to be fourth on the heaven list. Within the seal-seizing formation, the reincarnated true immortal Lai Xian, who had been suppressed twice by Su Zimo, had already cultivated back to the true immortal level. At the time, Su Zimo had only let Lai Xian go because of Xie Qingqing's plea. The reason why Su Zimo did this was because he wanted to do Xie Qingqing a favor. As expected, after Xie Qingqing became the Spirit Dawn Duke, Lai Xian assisted him to gain a firm foothold in the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom, clearing away many obstacles. However, even Lai Xian was powerless to stop what happened later. Lai Xian had played a key role in Yunju's rescue of Xie Qingqing from the prison of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. At this moment, Lai Xian's gaze passed through the crowd and saw the scarred man among the disciples of the academy. A trace of pity flashed in his eyes. Your Highness, Lai Xian said softly through his spiritual consciousness. The scarred man did not raise his head. He only said through his spiritual consciousness, Brother Lai, you don't have to do this. The original Xie Qingcheng is already dead. Now, there is only one called Chengqing. She is an earth immortal who is cultivating Wu Dao in the Qingkuan Academy. I'm not your sister, the Crimson Rainbow deity said coldly. I have nothing to do with the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. Humph. The Spirit Dawn Duke snorted and said, you severed your relationship with Father and the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom because of that tch. You are treacherous. As the Spirit Dawn Duke, I can suppress you at any time and send you back to the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom to be imprisoned. In just a few words, the Spirit Dawn Duke had accused the Crimson Rainbow deity of a great crime. Hee. The Crimson Rainbow deity laughed coldly and said, Xie, you are just the Spirit Dawn Duke. If the Flaming Sun Immortal King did not intervene, you are not worthy at all. Xie, Yang Ruoxu said in a deep voice, Crimson Rainbow deity is a disciple of the Academy. She is also my cultivation companion. If you want to touch her, you have to ask me first. Yo, who is this? Xie glanced at him and said with a strange smile, so it's the current patriarch of the Qingkuan Academy. Impressive, impressive. Yang Ruoxu, do you think the Qingkuan Academy is still the same as before? At this moment, another voice sounded. Not far away, a group of cultivators walked over. It was the Wind-Fire Temple, a heaven-class force that had risen in recent years. The leader was known as the first true immortal of the Wind-Fire Temple, True Immortal Xianfeng. It was said that this true immortal Xianfeng had already touched the barrier of a supreme skill. He even hoped to compete for the true immortal ranking of the next 9 Heavens Convention. True Immortal Xianfeng smiled and said, Yang Ruoxu, I advise you to restrain yourself. Be polite in front of the Spirit Dawn Duke. Don't be so arrogant. Otherwise, you will get into trouble. So lively. A voice sounded. Another heaven-class force, the Void Cleansing Temple, arrived. The leader was the first true spirit of the Void Cleansing Temple, True Immortal Xianfeng. You two came at the right time. Xie cupped his hands and said with a smile, the Flaming Sun Immortal King's blood flows in this Crimson Rainbow deity's body. However, because of a small matter, she wants to cut off her relationship with the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. As the Spirit Dawn Duke, I will suppress her. Is there a problem? Of course there is no problem. True Immortal Xianfeng nodded and said, such a rebellious person. Everyone has the right to kill her. True Immortal Xianfeng said, in my opinion, this woman has already fallen into the demonic path. As a righteous cultivator, we should kill her. Qingkuan Academy, Void Cleansing Temple, and Firestorm Temple did not have any conflicts. All these years, Qingkuan Academy had been growing and developing carefully. It was as if they were treading on thin ice. They could not afford to offend these two heaven-class forces. However, to the Firestorm Temple and Void Cleansing Temple, they naturally had to stand on the side of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom, which was also a heaven-class force. Yang Ruoxu frowned and said in a deep voice, fellow Taoists, this is Dejin's imperial city. Private fights are prohibited. Take her down. Xie acted as if he did not hear anything. With a cold expression, he waved his hand and pointed in the direction of the Crimson Rainbow deity. Immediately, 5 true immortals appeared and pounced on the Crimson Rainbow deity. Lai Xian frowned and did not step forward. If Yang Ruoxu and the Crimson Rainbow deity had kept a low profile, Xie might have mocked them and let them go. However, these two people dared to talk back in front of everyone on the long street. Instantly, Xieyu's killing intent was aroused. How dare you? Yang Ruoxu was furious and took out his long sword. A wave of righteous qi reverberated and rushed into the sky, blocking the 5 true immortals. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.